happy to be here with you today. Before we get started, I'd love to do a quick check in the room. So by a show of hands, and also for everyone joining us online, you can share a thumbs up emoji in the chat. I would love to know who here is a dad. Amazing. Please keep your hands up. Who here works with a dad? Please keep your hands up. And who here knows someone, has someone in their life who is a dad? Incredible. Thank you so much. That is 100% what are the chances? Oh, and I'm sure also for online same as well. And that's exactly why we are here today, because fatherhood touches all of us. I can speak to that from personal experience. When I was in infant school, I was cast and relieved in school play. I was so excited. I was ready to have my moment in the spotlight. My dad told me he would be there, and I couldn't wait to see. When I stepped on the
I looked out and I couldn't see him there. I felt empty, alone, and deflated. I had the last act to go. I had to belt out a song. And when I stepped out onto the spotlight, I looked in the corner of the room, and there my dad was. Sweaty, work clothes on, clearly having rushed from the office to be there. But it didn't matter what he looked like. I was just so excited that he was there. I belted out that final song with all of my might. You see, that spark, that joy we have when our dad shows up for us is exactly the reason that I'm here today. My name is Leanne Joseph, and I am beyond excited to be your host for the Working Dad Summit today. And this is a full circle moment for me because my dad is also here in the audience as well. Hello, Dad. And of course, shout out to my mum, who is also here as well. Of course. Yeah, don't worry. Exactly. I'm so excited to be your host. And today we're going to have a full agenda. And just as you saw walking in, there's going to be a lot of talking, a lot of lively conversation. But I'm going to need to ensure that I can get your full attention so that you know exactly what's going on here on the stage, because we have a lot of information and tools to give you. So to do so, we're going to do a little signal. And it goes something like this. If you can hear my voice, I'm going to need you to clap twice. Amazing. I didn't even have to ask for a test round, but we'll do a test round to involve everyone. So if you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap twice. You see that? The energy is building. Amazing. Now, you've already heard my story. You know why I'm here to empower dads to parent out loud. But we want to know your story. What is your reason for being here today? And for those joining us online, please write in the chat, what is your reason for being here? We want to know. I'm going to give everyone in this room and the people at home 60 seconds to turn to their neighbor, introduce yourself, and tell them the reason you are here. You have 60 seconds. Okay. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Amazing. I have my colleague Lauren here because we want to know and hear from you why you're here. So I would love to ask someone in the audience who's comfortable with sharing. What's the reason you're here? Anyone comfortable with sharing? Amazing. Thank you.
Yes. One of those outside of working with that change up Ali, I think, here on my left. He said he works with men, there's health relation pieces. I struggled with mental health for a while back, being at work, obviously being bad, all sorts of family relationship problems and whatever else. So now, I've come through that really well, and I was
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to share their reason for being here? We've got someone here in the front.
Thank you. So I think I've been into roasted. So we have to raise them, and then as the parent, as the mom, as the dad, as the teacher, as the grandparents, the leader. And so I think the work that Elliot and Steve doing really is a huge part in terms of how we actually, what we're doing with the next generation and how it's
Really cute. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have my colleague Steve, who is going to be moderating the online chat. So Steve, please tell us, what are the people online saying? Why are they joining us today?
Yeah, lots of interaction already, Lauren. So loads of amazing reasons, but a couple just really nice. So Emma gained some real life experience outside her own in how best to support working dads and break down any stigmas associated with parental responsibilities. So that mum versus dad stigmas that we all have. Lots of people just here want support is out there for dads and improve how we support each other in that space. And it was a great one for Luke that I know everyone will agree with, is because when we enable dads to support their kids, it gives more choice to everyone else in the family.
Amazing. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. And thanks for those joining us online. Please continue to keep the chat going. Write your comments and your questions because we will be reading them out here on stage. So what will you walk away with today? You guys already know what your intentions are for today. So let us tell you what you're guaranteed to get. It's 3 components, and they cover the head, the heart, and your hands. For your head, you will receive knowledge and data. This is all about topics covering policy, leadership, flexible working, and real strategies that are going to help you to empower dads to parent out loud. For your heart, you will receive emotional impact and connection. You'll hear powerful stories from dads from all walks of life. We have adopted dads, dads caring for kids and elderly parents, dads who have kids with additional needs, as well as many other stories that will impact you and have you thinking about this moment for days on by. And then for your hands, you'll have resources, practical tools that you can use to take to your organizations and also at home to empower the people in your life to parent out loud. So you've all already said your intentions to each other in this room and also online. So I would love to know, by pointing to your head, to your heart, or showing your hand, which one of these components points to your reason today. Are you looking to get something for your head? Are you looking to get something for your heart? Or are you looking to get something for your hands? Okay, we've got this is another way to do, I love it. This is another way to do heads, shoulders, knees and toes, basically. Amazing, but we've got some heads, we've got some hearts, we've got a lot of hands, and we were playing garage music earlier, so you know where the reference comes from. Exactly, great. Well, whatever it is that you're looking to get, just know it's guaranteed to happen. And we want you to stay right to the end because there's so much that we have in store for you. Before we get into the juicy content, I do have some housekeeping here for us. So for those joining us in the room, you will see the emergency exits are over here and over here. I finally get my air hostess moment. So I'm very excited about that. We will also have a break halfway through, so time for you to get a refreshment, go to the loo, which is just over here in the corner. And we also have different people, different staff members, so they're all wearing a Parenting Out Loud t-shirt. So if you have any questions or queries, you can go up to them. Or of course, you can come up to me. Amazing. So are we ready? Yes. Oh, I don't know. A little bit weak. Are we ready to begin the world's first Working Dad Summit? Are we ready? Amazing. Well, with that said, we're about to get to the heart of this movement, the dad who made this all possible. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, Elliot Ray.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I haven't said anything yet, so you might want to hold that. But people turned up. This is good. People came. This is amazing. This morning, I felt like a child waiting for my birthday party, just hoping people turn up so I'm not blowing out the candles by myself. So this is good. Thank you. And once again, welcome to the world's first Working Dad Summit, everybody. I think the fact that it is the world's first Working Dad Summit is incredible, but also a sign of how much work there is to do to support dads to be equal parents at home and to parent out loud at work. I want to tell you about a dad that I met recently who confirmed why this work is so important. So I was doing a talk at an investment bank. There was a guy in the audience called Billy. Now, I'm a married man with 2 children, but Billy was a good-looking guy, right? Really good-looking guy. Really good-looking guy. Very tall, muscles, chiseled jawline. The sort of person you meet who makes you think, I need to go to the gym immediately, like right away, 20 push-ups right now. And Billy came on after my keynote to share his story about fatherhood. Billy spoke about the fact that when he was growing up in his household, his dad was a senior lawyer. He was very busy, very successful. He wasn't around much when Billy was growing up. And when Billy went through some difficulties in his teenage years with local boys in the area, he felt inside that he couldn't talk to his dad about it. He felt like he didn't have that close relationship. And that stuck with Billy as he became an adult, as he went into the workplace. His idea of masculinity, of who he was, very much around dealing with problems by yourself, being an island. 20 years later, Billy becomes a dad himself. He's now a senior investment banker, doing really, really well for himself. Great, all good. Billy has 2 children, a boy and a girl. Billy's busy, he's working away. He said he recently found out that his eldest son was being bullied at school. And when Billy tried to talk to him about it, his son said he doesn't feel like he's got a close enough relationship to have that conversation. And it was in that moment that Billy realized he'd become his role model. He was being a man and being a dad in the only way he knew how. See, what we're doing in this room and in this work is we are breaking generational cycles. Because as men, yes, we can be protectors. We can be protectors, but we can be nurturers too. We can be breadwinners. We can be caregivers. We can be providers, and we can be provided for. See, Parenting Out Loud is a movement for dads. It encourages dads to be loud and proud about their caring responsibilities at work and equal parents at home. That means having an open calendar and the school drop-off proudly on display in the morning and afternoon. It looks like requesting flexible working for childcare reasons and being open with your line manager about that. It looks like taking all of the parental leave available. It looks like saying, sorry, I can't make that 8 a.m. meeting because I need to do the school run. And it's really important. It's transformational. Why is it important? Equal parenting is really good for men. Fathers who are more involved in childcare report significantly lower stress levels and higher overall life satisfaction working families. And fathers who engage in day-to-day care are less likely to experience depression and report better mental health outcomes, Fatherhood Institute. So I've got 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old. My 2-year-old is crazy. That is her trying to escape from Brighton Pier, as you do. And our 9-year-old is a comedian. If she wasn't at school, I probably would have booked her to do a stand-up comedy set. Like, she's got a joke. At the end of the school year, in the summer, we're in Tesco and we're looking around for presents to buy her teacher, anything but chocolates, and we're walking around. And I'm saying to her, what do you think Miss would want? What would Miss ask for? And she says, well, Miss always asks for silence. Can we buy some silence? We brought the chocolates. She's going to be 10 in 3 weeks' time. She's so excited, right? Double digits, exciting. Big milestone. And that's an important milestone for our whole family. Because 10 years ago, she had a very difficult start to life. She was born with an infection called Group B strep. And if you know about Group B strep, you'll know that 1 in 10 babies sadly pass away. Another 1 in 14 will have a lifelong disability. So me and my wife spent 2 weeks neonatal intensive care unit, lumbar punctures, intravenous antibiotics, MRI scans. We left the hospital. I had 2 days at home, and I did what so many other men do: go back to work straight away. Anxiety, insomnia, eventual PTSD diagnosis. Now, I count myself as one of the lucky ones because I was able to change my working pattern 3 times in the first year. But we shouldn't have to rely on luck. Every dad needs to be supported to be fully involved and active and equal parent from the very beginning of their child's life. But the reality is that 1 in 3 dads do not feel comfortable talking about their caring responsibilities at work. A third of parents feel like workplace support for them has declined. Men are less likely to ask for flexible working, and when they do, they're less likely to have those requests approved. And around 1 in 5 dads take no parental leave at all. We have one of the worst parental leave systems in Europe. When we support dads to be equal parents, they thrive. When we don't, there is devastation in regards to poor mental health, relationships, and of course, the motherhood penalty. So let's talk about the motherhood penalty. Equal parenting is good for women too. 12 years after the birth of their first child, women who are working are earning on average 33% less per hour than men, Institute for Fiscal Studies. 74,000 mothers per year will lose their jobs due to maternity discrimination. We have a gender pay gap of 13.1% in this country. Around 80% of that is attributed to the motherhood penalty. Women in the UK provide about 60% more unpaid childcare than men, even when both parents are employed. And mothers are around 3 times more likely than fathers to say they take the main responsibility for childcare, even when both work full time. We need to fix the system for working mums. This is not a competition. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a win-win for everybody. Equal parenting, parenting out loud, is really good for mothers, for fathers, for children, for businesses. So how do we achieve this utopia? Well, the answers are in this room. That's why you're here. That's why I invited you. The answers are right here. And as Leanne mentioned, we're going to hear from businesses that are doing the right thing, who are part of the 165 who have introduced equal parental leave, who have stayed away from the 5-day office return to work mandates, who have invested in their leadership, embraced flexible working. We're hearing from dads from a full range of life. We're going to hear more about the implications of dads parenting out loud and equal parenting. And we're going to end with a summary and update on the government's parental leave review. Because this is not just about making the floor higher for middle-class, higher-earning families. This is about raising the floor for lower-income families, for people who have to work on-site, for working-class families across the whole of the UK. And in Parenting Out Loud, we cover all of this. We support employers. We go into employers and do workshops, keynotes. We work with staff network leads, senior leadership roundtables, do the deep culture change to normalize dads parenting out loud. We also empower dads. We have peer support sessions. We do amazing events in football stadiums, online LinkedIn webinars, empower dads to parent loudly and be the dad they need to be at work and at home. And we also partner with other organizations to campaign government for better paternity leave, enhanced support for dads' mental health. But we are not doing this by ourselves. We have loads of people, organizations in this ecosystem working to support working dads and working parents. And so many of you are in the room today, and some are also our event partners. And I want to give them a shout out. I want to really make sure we recognize that this is a shared effort, a community, and the answers and the power is in this room and online. So first of all, the 30% Club. Pavita and Annie, are you in the building? Pavita, Annie? Can I get a whoop whoop? Whoop whoop! 30% Club are a business-led campaign to boost female representation at board and C-suite level. Future men, where's Chris? Can I get an oi oi, Chris? Can I get an oi oi? We haven't rehearsed this, clearly. You missed the cue. Joel from Father to Father. Is Joel in the room? Joel couldn't be here, but Father to Father do incredible work, provide early intervention mentoring, support and guidance for boys, men, and families. They're incredible. The Baby Show. Jade, can I get a let's go? Round of applause for Jade. So the Baby Show are the UK's largest and best loved pregnancy, baby, and parenting event for new and expectant parents. Incredible event. Please check them out. Working families. Jane, where are you? Jane and Sarah. Hey! Did we rehearse this, Jane? We're in sync, clearly. Working Families is the UK's national charity for working parents and carers. Their mission is to remove the barriers that people with caring responsibilities face in the workplace. I'm proud to be a Working Families ambassador. They do incredible work. You can hear from Jane on the panel shortly as well. Okay, who am I going to embarrass next? Let's see. Work Life Central. Anna and Vicky, are you in the room? Can I get an oi oi? So Work Life Central is an award-winning digital platform sharing expert-led content designed to support, inform, and inspire professionals in their family, work life, and well-being. Next up, Alex and George from the Dash Shift. Are you in the building? They're not in the building. But they do incredible work leading the campaign with other organizations to increase paternity leave here in the UK. Is Lee in the building for Male Allies? Where are you, Lee? Is Lee here? Lee's not here yet. Male Allies UK are specialists in male allyship and gender bias. They partner with organizations to close gender gaps through speaking, training, and consultancy. Okay, I know the next to here. How do you do it? Debs, you in the building? Can I get an oi oi? Round of applause for Debs. How do you do it? Through expert one-to-one and group coaching for working parents, carers, and their leaders. They support people to stay and grow in organizations. Thank you so much, Debs, for the introduction to Universal Music as well. Okay, I've got 4 people for the next one. CIPD, are you in the building? Can I get it? Let's go! That's the energy that I love. Thank you, CIPD. Personally, for me, it's incredible to partner with CIPD. 10 years ago, I did my own L&D certification, and now to partner with CIPD is incredible. They are the professional body for HR and learning and development and do so much work to create inclusive workplaces. Fatherhood Institute, incredible work. Kathy's joining online. Hi, Kathy. The UK charity that promotes and supports men as involved fathers and caregivers. We have Women at Work Summit. Laura's at home. She's got COVID, unfortunately. The global event series, creating more equitable workplaces to drive business growth. We have Powerful Women. Georgina and Grace, where are you? Can I get a let's go? Yes! Energy. A professional initiative to create a gender-balanced, diverse, and inclusive UK energy sector. And I also want to give out a massive shout out to another massive change maker in the room, the founder of Pregnant and Screwed, Jodie Brewley. Can I get it? Jodie was on her phone. Pay attention, Jodie. We'll be hearing more from Jodie later on. Absolute legend, founder of Pregnant and Screwed, one of the biggest change makers in the UK, alongside so many others. Ian from Inspiring Dads. We have so many people in the room that are doing incredible work. Thank you so much for being here. This is the national conversation about working dads. Right now, in the face of increased far-right rhetoric, some businesses rowing back from their D&I initiatives, some businesses demanding their employees back into the office 5 days a week, an unhelpful reshuffle recently in government. Our voices need to be louder. So please amplify this on social media, talk amongst yourselves. The answers are in the room. And with that being said, I would like to introduce our sponsors. Because trust me, this lovely venue is not in my budget. I can't afford this stuff. But someone else can. And that is the lovely Universal Music UK. It's been incredible to work with Pippa and Scott and Ange and Tom. They are one of the 165 organizations that offer equal parental leave. They're doing incredible work to support working dads, and it's a pleasure to have them sponsoring the world's first Working Dad Summit. So on that note, I'd love to introduce Scott and Jack to the stage to say a few words.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Leanne. What an amazing venue. I mean, the energy in the room's amazing. Any intro where there's an oi oi gets my vote any day of the week. I'm Jeff Cox. I'm Senior Director of Global Repertoire at Universal Production Music. I'm a proud dad, equal co-parenting 2 girls, ages 9 and 7, and thrilled to be part of the Working Dad Summit and have Universal sponsor the day. I've only recently discovered Parenting Out Loud through Universal's involvement in the event, but it's a fantastic organisation and initiative and a really important conversation. With Universal's equal parental leave policy, it's great to be part of a company that supports working dads. And while I had kids many years before the policy was introduced, I'm very proud of this offering and keen to support dads and mums making the most of their parental leave. I'm hoping today will be a great opportunity to bring dads together and chat, share experiences, and hopefully empower future dads to take advantage of parental leave and parent out loud with pride. I'll be speaking on the next panel. Feel free to come and say hi afterwards. I'll now hand over to Scott.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm Scott Alder, as well as being a senior finance manager for both the global brands and the global finance team at UMG. I'm also the chair of our Parents and Carers Network that we have in the UK. As the research that Elliot recently released, UMG is proud to be one of the 165 organisations that have equal parental leave. And that's certainly one of the reasons that we're proud to be sponsoring this event. As Elliot said, there is budget, so there's also drinks afterwards, so please stick around. For those in the room, I'm sorry. I apologise to those online, but certainly stick around for drinks after the event for those here. Indeed, the fact that we have an equal parental leave policy is one of the reasons that we're proud to be sponsoring this amazing event, which will undoubtedly allow those in the room, as well as those online, to help improve the positions for working dads, as well as all working parents. Not only do we offer the equal parental leave, but through the Parenting and Carers Network, we also run sessions for all people with either parental or caring responsibilities at UMG to come together, be a community network, share experiences, as well as bring in therapists on a monthly basis to cover different areas which we as parents and carers might all experience, go through at various stages of the child life cycle or the caring cycle, and ultimately, hopefully, be able to take those home with us and then improve ourselves as parents and carers. I've got one daughter who's 7, but ultimately going on 17 already. And today, I think will be a great opportunity from here to hear from other dads, as well as other people, on how we can progress the position for all working dads. From the 2 of us, on behalf of Universal Music Group, thank you ever so much for being here. We hope you all enjoy the afternoon, and we certainly hope this will be the first of yet many Working Dad Summits. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have got started. How are we all feeling? Great, amazing. For far too long, the narrative of the ideal worker has been in direct conflict to the narrative of the involved father. That has pushed dads to parent quietly, to not take paternity leave, as we've already heard, and to miss key moments in their child's lives. But we're not here to point fingers. We are here to build bridges. And that's exactly what our next panel is going to do for you today. Because the catalyst that we need to really see change doesn't just come from the courage of individual dads. It comes from the courage of the workplaces that they work for. That's exactly why we have the employers panel coming up. And for the employers panel, you will walk away with the head, as I've said, knowledge data, insights on what it really takes to implement policies that empower dads to parent out loud at work. And there'll be something for your hands. Actionable strategies that you can take into your own organizations to build staff dad networks and empower the dads that you see and work with every single day. So give me a huge, once I read out the names, not before that, because we want to be able to hear who we have here on stage, because we have some amazing experts here for you today. We have Jane Funsale, who'll be chairing our panel. We have Vicky Gallagher-Brown, Jeff Cox, and Lizzie Lloyd. Please give them a huge Working Dad Summit round of applause.
Keep it going, keep it going.
Thank you. Yes. So this is my moment. Hello, daddies. And I have to fess up, I stole that line. But it is brilliant to see such a gender diverse group here today. And huge thanks to Elliot for inviting us here. Absolutely brilliant to be at the first Working Dad Summit. But most importantly, let me welcome our extraordinary panel. Sitting on my right is Lisa Lloyd. Lisa is a parent to 2 children with the additional joys, I question that, of managing a grassroots football team and is a self-proclaimed fun mum. Not sure what that means. Then next to her we have Jeff. Jeff is from a creative background rather than a policy or HR background. And as you know, he's dad to 2 girls. He proudly aligns with the Parenting Out Loud ethos and can share a working dad's perspective on the panel. So we're so pleased to have you here with us. And finally, we have Vicky Gallagher. Vicky is the expert from an HR background. She's worked in a variety of industries, from retail to banking, aviation and the arts, real squiggly career woman. And she's also the proud parent of 2 now adult children. And I stole the line from her daughter. So let's get straight into the questions. And the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is equal parental leave. And from an employer perspective, what barriers have you faced in implementing the equal parental leave? And how have you overcome them? Vicky, I know you were keen to talk about getting the business case through the exec team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been on a journey for a couple of years to introduce equal parental leave, which we're very proud to say we introduced last year, 26 weeks paid leave for all of our parents. And it was quite a journey to get there. I think in terms of building the business case, you know, for us, it really started with listening to our people and connecting that listening to our leadership. So we connected them to our Working Families Network, our Gender Balance Network. We also have town halls where we get lots of feedback from our 25,000 people and our engagement surveys as well. And leaders could see the real strength of feeling and the, you know, quite heartfelt stories actually about the experience that our parents were having, particularly our dads. At the point where we started this journey, we were offering 4 weeks paid leave on top of the statutory amount, which is not enough. And our dads were taking about 2 weeks of those that leave. So we knew we had quite a change to drive, both culturally and in terms of building that business case. And what we did, we worked very closely with those networks in terms of understanding the experience. We also worked very closely with our finance team, who were fantastic actually, at looking at different models about both the cost impact, but also looking at how putting this equal leave in place would impact well-being of our people, engagement, retention, attraction, and we put numbers around all of those things, which really made the case very compelling. Now, we didn't get it over the line all at once. We took a step a couple of years ago where we enhanced the leave across the board. And then last year, we announced the full leave, all 26 weeks, along with leave for carers, neonatal leave and fertility leave as a package of measures that would support that real change. So the business case was tough, working out the finance side of it, making the models understandable and obviously reflective of what was going to happen in reality, because you don't always replace parents who are out for a period of time, so it can fall on other people. So we were quite thoughtful about trying to make our financial modelling real and understanding the real impact.
Absolutely brilliant to hear all of that, Vicky. Thank you. And I think that's a totally comprehensive introduction to how you can get it through your business. And Lisa, I know that you were keen to talk about engaging employees.
Yeah.
Vicky's mentioned it, and including their voices in the design of the policy.
Thank you. Everything Vicky said is exactly what we did as well. But just to build on that, I think understanding that our organisation is very large, very diverse, understanding the roles that you're trying to apply the principles to, so listening to colleagues' needs. Everybody's journey will be unique, and that's something to kind of go in with. But actually, the kind of the benefit of engaging the leadership in that is being able to bring to life what those stories mean to individuals, listening to what they have to say, listening through surveys, also our trade union representation, because they're the voice of our kind of workers. We're not just office-based, we're in the field, we're in construction, so that diversity and that flexibility in the framework has to fit everybody. So we took about a year as well of all of that engagement, and then through the kind of leadership sign-off, we brought that to life and applied the policy, and the uptake has been absolutely fantastic and the feedback thereafter. So the perceived barriers are actually only perceived. You've got to work through that complexity to bring it to life. And that's the beauty of, I think, that conversation at a colleague level.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jeff, hello. So being a working dad at UMG, you have taken, so could you talk about somebody who has taken the leave? I know that you weren't able to because it was your daughters are now 9 and 7, but how has it impacted their well-being and engagement?
Yeah, I think the important thing was to create an environment where they felt comfortable making the most of the leave and taking the full allocation of leave. The first thing to do was to make sure that there's a really effective handover process. The duties of the role have been handed over effectively, and I think that having that confidence that you're going to go away for however long period of time, particularly with dads, that we're finding that might be two lots of 3 months, that might be 6 months in one go, that might be a month here, 2 months there, 2 months there. There's a bit more of a flexibility with kind of when the leave's taken, to feel that when you do go away, that the jobs have been taken care of. And I think most crucially, particularly for any extended periods of leave, that on return, that there's an opportunity for development, a slight evolution of that role, and maybe some of the duties that have been handed over to someone else, kept with someone else to enable a development in that position to be able to take on something else. And I think by keeping that evolution, but also having the environment where there's a confidence that you're not going to come back to this huge, backlog of work, is going to really help the engagement and help the implementation of it. Hopefully, that's going to lead to retention.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. So much of being a great parent relies on flexible working. Vicky, so you've done at Deloitte a great move in terms of not demanding everybody's in the office Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So how has that worked? What benefits have you found?
Yeah, there's been huge benefits to us continuing with our agile policy. We had a policy that goes back to 2014, and obviously, like many firms with the pandemic, it really accelerated as staying with it, because we realise the benefit to families and carers of us continuing to trust our people to be where they need to be when they need to be there. And we did some other things, like we flexed our bank holidays. So now you can choose when you take your bank holidays. You don't have to take them on the prescribed days. We also looked at other things like remote working, and we offer international remote working for people who are able to take it and have the right to work in different countries for 20 days as well. So we tried to create that flexibility across the piece, and we've continued to see, you know, as we came out of the pandemic, the importance of that trust in letting our people decide where they need to be. And obviously there's always a balance to strike. But what have we seen from a business point of view? Well, our retention is really different now. So we have attrition levels that are historically low and have stayed like that for the last 4 years. So that's been a real shift for us as a firm. We hear just continuously good feedback from our people through our engagement surveys about the importance of flexibility. And, you know, we're expected to be where we need to be for our clients and for our teams, but there really is choice there. And, you know, I think unlike some other firms, we've stuck to that. And from our working families, from our dads, we hear how it continues to be important, because they can do pick up and drop off during the week. And that is hugely important for family dynamics. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, what I find fascinating about E.ON is that you, of course, don't have people who are just working in the office. You've got this huge range of different types of roles. How's flexible working being implemented with those dads? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. Yes. So as I've mentioned, E.ON is a very broad and diverse business. Now we have colleagues who do lots of things, but we have flexible working principles, and that's a framework of things that we can apply. So we have to kind of think around, you know, how can that be taken up by an individual, and that conversation with the line manager as well. So if we think around starting with a yes, and I'm stealing one of my colleagues' phrases, but we start with a yes and work backwards from there. There will be some compromises that you need to make, but if your framework is broad enough, you can apply those principles every time to everybody. It does open up the door for a conversation, and it also empowers colleagues to have that conversation transparently. Something that Elliot said, you know, the working dad wanting to come and talk to their line manager about what their needs are, that's a complete game changer and completely different to the workforce that I remember entering 20 years ago. So, you know, I'm incredibly proud that we can offer that to our colleagues. But thinking about the shared parental leave and flexible working, we've seen a great uptake in working dads. I think 350 of our working dads have taken the shared parental leave. Over 50% of those have taken the full entitlement, which is wonderful. And then sharing those stories and that flexible working story, you know, shouting that out loud does then engage others to go and have that conversation. So we have to cater for our whole organisation. So thinking about that in the framework and making it as broad as possible is one of the benefits in the policies that we have.
Brilliant. I find it fascinating that kind of move up throughout the organisation. It's going to make such a change in the next 10 to 20 years. And Jeff, as a male role model, male real model, what impact has Parenting Out Loud had on your team and your team's wider employees?
Yeah, I think something that we've tried to do from my perspective is in Parenting Out Loud is about transparency and being open and very honest about the juggle of parenting, and with my co-parenting setup, my juggle is quite dominated. First half of the week, I have my kids at the front and at the end of the day, and then the second half of the week, I don't have my kids. So creating a structure and creating the boundaries of being, I'm very much online these days, but these days I've got those commitments, and just by having that transparency, I found everybody is very, very respectful of that, and it's very rare that something crops up where I'll need to kind of move outside of the regular slots, and then going to the kind of the rest of the team, hopefully by being able to have the confidence to be transparent about parental duties, will give others the confidence to be able to do the same and to take that step if they want to choose to become parents and choose to take the leave, whether that be mums or dads.
Great, thank you. And Lisa, as the sponsor for the Working Families Network at E.ON, how have you seen the impact of senior leadership and its support, and how can that drive the culture change?
It's amazing when you hear your CEO talk about the support and the praise that he gives to his wife who works in education about the shared responsibilities. And he says that, you know, on a call on our kind of intranet, I forgot the name of it, it's just changed, but just kind of promoting the idea that actually this is normal, this is real. And as somebody who has benefited from flexible working, who's got, you know, 2 children, one in high school, one in primary school, to hear from colleagues at leadership level that we can be open about that is incredibly powerful for colleagues who, A, want to progress with their career and know that there's no limitations, but B, for anybody entering our organisation knowing that's normal. I just want to pick something else that Elliot said around the look. It should not be lucky to have a great line manager who will support you through the transition of being a parent. We all know there's probably people in the room today who have had a sick kid overnight, or somebody who didn't want to go to school today, on whatever that might look like. That is so empowering for me to say to my team, do you know what, I had a rubbish night's sleep and I'm not quite on it today. Let's make sure we build from there, and they can be transparent with me. Hearing our board talk around their parenting experiences on social media, or again, the internal channels, just really does engage our teams much better. And those personal stories are the kind of catalyst for more of that to be taken up. So I can't tell you about the advocacy any more than that, but it's a winning recipe, and so proud that our UK board support it fully themselves.
Thank you. And Vicky, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about line manager training. And Chartered Management Institute tells us, and I'm sure this is not the case at Deloitte, but most managers, only 20% of them have been trained in managing people.
Yeah.
So even with senior leadership team that are bought in, even with great policies, even with the HR team pushing this, how do you get line managers to really engage?
Yeah, all of our we call them people leaders. All of our people leaders go through training, not just training when they become people leaders, but we have monthly forums where we update them or remind them of policies. We also have skills builders around difficult, challenging conversations. And obviously with our parental leave, now we've got our first batch of dads coming back to work after 6-month leave, and we're very proud that they're taking 24 of those weeks on average instead of 2. So it's a massive shift for us, but we're seeing that our dads that are coming back are experiencing the same challenges as our mums. You know, I've missed the promotion round, I am nervous about coming back. So we're trying to equip our people leaders in how to support all of our parents as they come back into the workplace and adjust to what all of us know is quite a juggle and quite a challenge as you navigate through all of the years of your children. And for those with younger children, the time doesn't really alter as they get older. I need to break it to you. Mine are 20 and 22 and still need time, and I want to give it to them. But you know, our people leaders are really important in ensuring that our policies are delivered and the culture is delivered in the way that we would expect it to.
Yeah, and I really like what you were saying about the fact that the parenting journey doesn't stop at 2 or 2.5 or 5 or 7. You know, it just does actually carry on.
Yeah.
And which leads me to Jeff, to you, and I'm going to ask kind of a really terrible question for you. It's about equality at home. And, you know, how has the Parenting Out Loud message influenced your parenting roles at home?
I think the amazing thing about Parenting Out Loud and equal parental leave policy is it sets a precedent from day one of parenting that it's an equal responsibility across the board. So from day one, if you are able to have two parents at home looking after a tiny, tiny baby, regardless of what those duties are, but it is an equal responsibility from day one. And then when you get back into going back to work, both careers are treated equally. There's equal importance of whether the mum, the dad both want to go back to work full time. And the knock-on effects into school life, adult life to 20 and 22-year-old, the positive impacts on both sets of parents and the children is going to be kind of completely transformative.
I'm going to finish that question by asking all of us, who cleans the toilet in the house? Because in my house, my husband cleans the toilet after the male visitors, and I clean the toilet after the female visitors.
Well, I haven't got a choice, unfortunately, so that's me.
So thank you all for that. So for me, it's kind of final words now. So what would you say to these people here, any of the business leaders, and also people who aren't necessarily the most senior people in their organization? From your perspective, what are the things that will get equalized parental leave over the line with that parenting out loud idea? And Vicky, I'm going to start with you and then we'll come this way.
Sure. I think from our experience, we had the pleasure of reaching out to other firms who were ahead of us, to other countries that were ahead of us, and we asked for support and help. And I guess we all need to work together to drive this over the line, to drive the societal change that actually this is about. So I guess all of us here would say if we can help, then please reach out. And I think be really noisy about this. It's so important. It drives such a change for all of us culturally. So I think this is one of the occasions that as employers, as you know, all of the groups that are here today, that we work together to move this agenda forward.
Thank you.
And for me, just a very simple, do it, really. I think if everyone does it, then we make real change. I think the challenges of when it's only a few people doing it, it's really difficult to make those wholesale changes. So if every employer can make those steps, and if every employer can do it and adopt the policy, then that's when we really win.
Empowered dads who show up at home, at work, benefits the children, the partner, and the employer. Let's just be honest about this, you know, so just do it, or do it, whatever it might be. I think we all need to get on board and recognise the bigger benefit to society and how that will show up in our children's lives for the future, and then our grandchildren's lives, dare I say, is a wonderful thought. So don't stop until you've got the delivery of what you want, and you will get there.
Fantastic. And I'm going to sneak a couple more minutes, if I may, by asking everybody for their personal reflection. Vicky, what's your favourite memory of your father?
Yeah. Gosh, that's a brilliant question. What's my favourite memory? I played a lot of sport. My dad played a lot of sport. So we would at the weekends, because he was at work in the week. So we would get the occasional. We used to play tennis together. Just him and I, and there was always a hilarious conversation about where I was putting my balls. Which sounds very rude, it really wasn't. So I think having the joy of spending that time with him alone was really precious, because it was few and far between. So that's probably one of my favourite memories.
Thank you.
Same for me?
Yes, please, Jeff.
So my dad, he was a farmer when I was a kid, and so he could take quite a few of the school runs and pickups because he didn't have a kind of structured job. So it's thinking back to being at primary school age, when my dad would pick me up in a tractor. It was one of the most important things ever, and the sort of the street cred I got at school was incredible. So it would have to be that.
I don't know if I can top that, to be honest. My dad unfortunately passed away in 2019, so I do have thought around some of the great memories I've had of him, but I think it was probably more when I was older, when I was moving into an apartment for the first time, living on my own, and he was a chef by trade, a wonderful cook. Didn't like cooking at home, interestingly enough, but probably because he was doing that all day. But I remember spending the time with him in the kitchen, batch cooking things that would go in my freezer to make sure that I did not starve or just eat crumpets. So that's my memory.
Brilliant. And I'm just going to add one as well. My father worked shifts when I was very young, which meant that he was frequently up at the same time as me. And my most treasured memory is of he and I going outside, I lived in South Africa, to pick warm figs from the tree for breakfast. And my mother hated figs, my sister hated figs, so that was absolutely our special time. Thank you all so much for your insight into what makes it work at work, to Parent Out Loud, what makes you all passionate, and what great dads those of us who were lucky enough to have. Wow, what a wonderful thing we pass on to all of the people that we work with and our children. And dads, it is just fantastic to see all of you here. So thanks very much, and back over to Elliot.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can't let my daughter see this because she'll want a tractor. So that's amazing, Jeff. But my daughter's not seeing this recording. No way. I want to talk to you about Dad's Mental Health Connection and Parenting Networks. A gentleman at the beginning shared around his experience of poor mental health. And I really wanted this to be a moment of pause and reflection today for us to have some time to talk about this. I want to start by playing this video for you.
Oh, man, how you doing? You good? Oh, so, thank you. How you doing? God, it's exciting, isn't it? Hey? Oh, wow. How's the weekend? Really? Yeah. Yeah. My things are outside and put all Hi.
One thing I've learned in the last years doing this work with dads is that you never really know what's going on in someone's life. When I was going through my difficult period, it was very unlikely that my colleagues, even friends, would have realized the extent of what we were going through as a family. Sometimes mental health does show symptoms and signs, other times it doesn't. I was invited to the Belfry a lovely club up in Birmingham, lovely golf club, a couple of years ago, just after COVID, to work with 200 senior engineers, mainly men, and it really taught me so much about assumptions and the assumptions that we make when we walk into a room. So they were there after a 2-day conference. They were having a good time. The Wray and Nephew and Guinness was flowing. They were drunk. They were having a great time. And I was pretty nervous because I was booked as the after-dinner entertainment. Now, my wife thinks I'm funny, but I'm not a comedian, right? So I'm pretty nervous about how it's going to go because they want to spend more time with Guinness and Wray and Nephew rather than hear me speak, is the assumption that I was making. So I sit down, I rejig my presentation, I do a quiz at the beginning, I give away a whole load of books to the winning table, I bribe their attention, we're in, all good. We do the session on flexible working, on men's health, on how they connect with their field engineers. Really, really good. Got them talking, incredible. At the end, this guy puts his hand up and says, Elliot, can I share something with the audience? I said, of course. He came up, took the microphone. He said that his son has just started hormone treatment, transitioning, which they're supporting, it's all good, but just in case you see me distracted at work, this is why. Another man put his hand up. Elliot, can I share something with the audience? Of course, he came up. He said his wife has just asked for a divorce. He has 2 kids in this marriage, 2 kids from a previous marriage. Not quite sure how he's going to afford it all, where he's going to live. Just in case you see me distracted at work, this is why. And there was a queue of men waiting to come and share their stories. And for me, that was a real learning experience. I walked into that room, and my assumption was that these guys have it all sorted out. They're not going to be interested in what I have to say. Why are we doing this? We have to think about what that means for our own workplaces. How many workplaces and spaces and meetings and environments do you go into and the same thing is happening? The reality is for working dads, around 1 in 10 dads experience depression during the perinatal pregnancy and first year after birth. 2 to 3 babies lose their dads to suicide every week across the UK. 75% of suicides are men, with men aged 40 to 49 having the highest suicide rates in the UK. And that 40 to 49 is really important. Potentially aging parents, young children, senior responsibilities at work, divorce, redundancy. And approximately 12.5% of men in England have a diagnosed mental health disorder. Now, I want you to think behind the statistics. These numbers are the people that we live and work with. They are people in our families. They are people back in your office that you sit next to. They are people that we sit around and have dinner with, maybe every day. So why are mental health outcomes for dads so poor? Well, we can start from the beginning, the first 1,001 days. We know there is a lack of engagement through the maternity process. Many dads do feel like a third wheel through that process, and we need to work to fix that. Many dads will experience a drop in testosterone when their baby is born, and that can impact mood and mental health. Traumatic birth experiences. Then we have poor statutory leave, paternity leave, 2 weeks paid at £187.18 per week, below the national living wage. Lack of flexibility in our workplaces, exhaustion, financial pressure. But there are some things that we can do. There are some things that are working that need more time and investment and focus. We have Dad Matters in Manchester doing incredible work to engage dads through the maternity process. They have the world's first, the UK's first integrated support network for dads through maternity. And they have wonderful outcomes in regards to mental health in Manchester, the amount of dads that go back into them for support. They've just been given a £1 million grant to roll that out nationwide. They need more funding and more support. The statutory paternity leave campaign that is led by Pregnant and Screwed, Father Institute, Working Families, a Dad Shift, to increase statutory paternity leave to at least 90% for 6 weeks. That will make so much of a difference when dads being able to learn to bond with their baby, soothe their baby, adjust to the whirlwind that is becoming a new parent. We have incredible organizations like Future Men and Father to Father doing early intervention, creating spaces for men and dads to talk, to seek peer and clinical support. That needs more help, more funding, more awareness, and more support. And of course, Parenting Out Loud workplaces where dads can be loud and proud about their caring responsibilities at work, where they can come to work and talk about what's going on with them in their mind at home. So there has been the prevailing idea that for men, there has been silence and strength in the silence. We know when it comes to accessing NHS talking therapies, only 36% are men, and around 50% of men who suffer from poor mental health don't seek any support at all, ever. We also know that 1 in 5 men self-report as having no close friendships. And even when we do have those friendships, how strong are they? There's a wonderful analogy around hen nights and stag nights. See, that hen will know she is loved, right? Massages, words of affirmation, champagne, lovely stuff. You know you're loved on your hen night. But at the stag night, I love you so much, I'm going to chain you to a lamppost. Then strip you naked and force feed you vodka, because I love you so much. The way that we show affection and love in our friendships is very different. But friendship and connection is so important, so important. When we are lonely, we are more likely to have cardiovascular diseases, more likely to suffer from suicidal ideation, more likely to be depressed. For the men in the room and online, it's really worth thinking about how do we expand our network, prioritize our friendships, have more intimate relationships with the men and friends in our lives. See, through Parenting Out Loud, we do incredible events. We go to football clubs and we work in stadiums. We work with the likes of Arsenal and Southampton and Leicester City. And my favourite club, the best club in the country, Queen's Park Rangers. Any QPR fans? Hey, there's one over there. That is a plant, by the way. There's never normally any QPR fans in the building. That's my friend Rob. We go to the QPR games together. Brother. Incredible events. We have a whole day in a stadium, free lunch, stadium tour. And as part of that, we get the dads to talk about a variety of different things, gender roles in their house, but importantly, support networks. And we do this activity where we give them a piece of paper with a football pitch and ask them to write down their 11-a-side support network team. Who is in your team for the good times, the bad times, and everyone in between? Who's your goalkeeper, your striker, your defence, your midfield? So I'll normally go first and talk through my team. My mum and dad are in defence, right? No nonsense. If you know Tony Adams and Martin Keown, any old school Arsenal fans, that's kicking and heading, the basics, right? But they'll give you a 7 out of 10 every game. They're going to be reliable, turn up to training on time. You can trust them. I've got my wife, Sineni, in the midfield. Think Roy Keane, right? Box to box. Might score a 30-yarder, defend for you. Put a leg in when needed. Don't mess with her, the captain, right? Made of strong stuff. She's there laughing in the background. And I've got my best friends, Dwayne and Jermaine on the wings, unpredictable, right? Think Bruno Fernandes. They might score a 30-yarder, but we might fall out if they don't pass me the ball. I'm clear for on goal. Unpredictable. We did this up with a club in the Midlands. And I'll never forget there's one dad that came and shared his team with the audience. This dad had his dad's group that he meets up with once a month in goal. He had his wife in defence and his mum, who had passed away 3 years ago, in midfield. He had 2 positions filled. Unfortunately, that is more common. When we work with dads, it's more likely that they don't have 11-a-side positions. They don't have a team. And we also always have to think about how do we work to build that team. And I want you to reflect now. I'm going to ask you to think about who's in your team, who would you put in those variety of positions, and think about who's your goalkeeper, who's your defender, who's your attacker, who's your striker. So I'm going to ask you to have a conversation with the person next to you. Make a new friend, be friendly. We're all friends here, we're all family. And have a conversation. Talk through some of the people that's in your team. Do you have 11 players? Do you have substitutes? How can you build that team? And if you do have an 11 players, how well do they know you and how well do you know them? Okay? So a few minutes online, please put it in the chat, your 11-a-side teams, make a new friend and have a conversation. Thank you. Hey, let's come back into the room. Thank you so much. Let's come back in the room. Thank you, everybody. Let's come back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love the conversations. Really, really, really good to hear the conversations. Thank you so much. I want to talk to the dads in the room. I want to ask you to be brave and share some of the reflections about your team. Maybe you want to take the microphone and talk about a couple of people in your team, why you chose those positions, what they do for you, or more general reflections around the amount of people that were or weren't in your team. Okay, I'm sure we've got a brave man in the room to go first. We've got a few, lovely, right there. Thank you.
It's obvious positions, but for some of the top now, reflecting on, I wonder if I would be anyone else's team.
Yes.
My friends would wear it. I'll have to think about you. Yeah, really interesting switch of mindset.
100%. 100%. Great point. Thank you so much. We had a, yeah, round of applause. Round of applause. We had a gentleman down here somewhere. Where are you? There you go.
So I'm not lucky on those in a way, could be lucky. But I got 5 friends that live very close to me that I went to school with since I was 11, and we see each other all the time. My wife says way too much, but you know, we go out. One of them I go to Forest with, so I'm Forest town. I go to Forest with my dad, see him all the time. And then like my wife started lots of friendship groups, started off with just girls and more husbands involved and stuff, and so I hang out with them and see those guys quite a bit. I'm a social guy. Yeah, we'll see them quite a bit as well. But then like dance stuff, we do stuff with the kids. So me and my mate go to Spike Pursuit and do bits like that, and you know, just any stuff, just chat and sweet and stuff. So I suppose in that way I'm quite lucky. And I think I would be in my best mate's team, like with people, say parents, you know, we help each other out.
Amazing.
Just move it out slightly.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's get another one. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm just going to add, I play quite a lot of paddle tennis. I'm sure many of you are starting to take this one a lot. And I'm also doing a fellowship with paddle, which is playful dance. And we share stuff, we talk, and you know, there's lots of great things, you know, tennis, we socialise and so on. You know, you got to think about the mental health and reaching out, and you know, you do football clubs and so on. But actually reaching out to that, so we've got tennis balls around mental health or parenting, the real opportunities. A lot of that's, you know,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's take one more. Who else have we got? Gentleman up here. Sorry, Lon, I got you running around.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, to be honest. I relocated to Folkestone, Kent Coast 4 years ago. And spent the first kind of year or so, get to know the area, spend time with my family, get a dad about 18 months ago. And then the lead up to that, the anxiety of, oh my God, I'm a dad, I don't know what health I'm doing. And so I tried joining like the CrossFit gym and joined the paddleboard and stuff. But it also put there was like the missing element of our expectation. People were going there because they wanted to paddleboard. People were going there because they wanted to train and help and be everyone. And so actually, I started my own thing. I started in Manchester called Folkestone Fellas.
Hey, love that.
But going away, I mean, like a month after post, I had 30 men walk up to this door.
Right. Amazing.
And so in November, we'll celebrate our second birthday, and we've got a 200 member WhatsApp group now dedicated Dad's channel. And I think the kind of lesson is in the context of this, I feel like my go-tos aren't there, but I know I've got this kind of secondary fallback network, which is like great dads who will be there to listen, support me, offer help whenever I need. And so actually, like I'm at peace with the idea of maybe not having a full 11 right now. But I know I've got like a bunch of other teams in place who are really kind of supportive of me.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Really heartwarming contributions there. Thank you to everyone that shared. And Chris, I love the flip there. You know, am I on someone else's team? How much do we invest in those relationships where they see us as a support network as well? That's incredible. I feel like the workplace can do some work to build these communities around dads, support dads to be equal parents, to address dad's mental health. And there's a few ways I want to talk about, and hopefully you can reflect on where you are in your workplace around this. So we heard from the employers panel. Your parental leave policies are really important to support dad's mental health. Enhance them. Learn from people in your industry. Think about how much further you can go. Alongside that, the culture change work. Invest in your leaders, invest in normalizing conversations about being a dad. Think about how it feels when you want to work flexibly, when you need to stay at home for whatever reason. Reinvesting in that culture change work is really important. Return to work coaching. How does it feel for a parent to go back into the workplace? It's a critical, important period. And if we support dads in that moment, they are way more likely to be engaged ongoing. What does your return to work offer look like? Do you have coaching for dads in place? Is there a buddy network? Do you do phased hours on return? Thinking about the experience when you're coming back after parental leave, after having a baby is crucial. Training for line managers. I'm lucky enough to work with many different companies through different industries, and often there is great messaging from leadership, there is good policy, but it falls down at the middle management level. Line managers have so much impact on our day-to-day life at work. Making sure your line managers are on board, training, supporting. They are aware of what is expected of them. They are rewarded for doing the right thing. Investing in your line managers is key to those leadership messages and that policy actually coming to fruition in the real world every day for dads. Having an employee assistance program, and a good one. So when you call that line, they are aware of some of the issues you may be raising. They can understand you. They have cultural competence. They maybe have some experience. Having an inclusive EAP that people want to use can be a lifesaver and a really important benefit in the workplace. And lastly, I am a massive fan of staff networks. Staff networks that are funded, that have facilitation time for their network chairs, that have senior leadership support, can be the make or break for how a dad experiences his work life. Somewhere where you can go and just share your experiences, where you can hear from other people. Sometimes we don't have the solutions to each other's problems, but we have a community where I can talk and vent and hear other people doing the same. That is a game changer. Often it is free. And I would say it is one of the most important and easy actions you can do right away. Build a dad's staff network. There are amazing examples in Microsoft, in Co-op and Aon. This is happening in businesses. Monthly coaching sessions, informal coffee meetings, buddy schemes, sharing case studies from dads who are doing things differently. Having a really inclusive, safe dads network is so important. So, family-friendly policies, work on your culture, your return to work coaching and support, training for line managers, EAPs, and dad networks is where we are going to hear those stories. And I'm really, really excited to introduce our next speaker who's going to share his story. A dad who I think is incredible, who is a loving man, who is a great dad and is helping to move the conversation forward around working dads. He's vocal online, he parents out loud, and he's an incredible role model for everyone. So I'd like you to put a massive round of applause and hands together for James Smither. James, welcome to the stage.
Hopefully my microphone is working. Can you hear me? I've got one here. Go with this one instead. Hi everyone, I'm James. Thanks for that incredible introduction, Elliot. Way too kind. For my day job, I parent out loud at Freshfields. Those of you who don't know the legal profession, it's a big law firm. I lead on risk management there. That's pretty boring, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I've been following Elliot around for a while, so in the spirit of music, football, fatherhood, which is one of his other brands, music, indie, trip hop, shoegaze, and EDM when I'm working out. Football, I'm an Arsenal season ticket holder. I hope I feel safe saying that in King's Cross. It's our neighbourhood right here. But I joined the Watford Stadium get together that Elliot talked about. It was awesome. If you get a chance to go on one of those days with Elliot, they are transformative, really good. Fatherhood, that's what I'm here to talk about today. So bear with me. So I'm talking about a parent carer story today. That's my story. And like many in the community who it's my honour to represent today, I look back on my life as divided into two parts, the before and the after I became one of the almost 3 million people in our country who have caring responsibilities. Before that moment, and it's painful, in fact shameful to admit it now, I was sometimes that person who judged a family out in a restaurant with one of the kids, plugged into headphones watching a tablet. Or I tutted under my breath when the child was having a meltdown in a public place like an airport or a supermarket. Now I'm the recipient of those same reactions. So I'm on the other side of the table there. And I'd really like to thank you for having me here to talk about that transformation. So I guess what I'm really talking about is my son, Nav, who's now 10. He was diagnosed autistic back in January 2019, not long before his 4th birthday. He subsequently received a kind of alphabet soup of additional acronyms for the collection, global development delay, which is essentially a learning disability, ADHD, and various other conditions that go alongside that. I don't know if some of you in the room, I'm sure some of you online have been through the diagnosis process with your child. It's pretty brutal. You have to answer lots of questionnaires, go through lots of observations, have lots of different professionals, write pretty clinical and cold judgments. There's a lot of negative language. I think of some of the words like dysregulated, disordered, deficit, impediment, abnormal, atypical. That's quite a lot to go through. So along with many others in the same situation, I'm sure the confirmation of his diagnosis hit me pretty hard. I don't mind admitting I cried on my wife's shoulder that evening, and I certainly cycled through the various stages of grief over the days and the weeks that followed, as the generic visions of what fatherhood might look like that I'd had previously, shared hobbies like going to Arsenal together, long conversations, perhaps even a similar educational pathway to my own, dissolved into something a bit more uncertain and certainly a lot more terrifying. It gets more cheerful, I promise. My first salvation, and in fact it's a recommendation that's echoing through the presentations we've already heard, it actually came very quickly, and that's my first recommendation for workplaces to help parents like me. Funny enough, the same month that we got the diagnosis, I was actually starting a new job. And as soon as I started the new job, I went to the intranet, and that's another word we've heard. And more in hope than expectation, I searched to see if there was any kind of help available for someone in my situation and kind of going on this journey about autism. I'm really convinced I'm going to fall off the stage at some point. Thanks so much. And guess what? Actually, there was a smaller law firm than right now, but there actually was a lunchtime support group for parent carers of autistic kids. And really, words can't describe how much this helped me. And it didn't just help me for those weeks and months when I was on the learning journey, it helped me for years. So throughout the COVID period, and any of you who's parenting during COVID will remember the school closures and the lockdowns and the pressure for teaching from home and so on. It was transformative. The emotional affirmation, the advice at every moment of the battles that you have to go through as a parent to a disabled child, the instant and implicit understanding. However you badge it, whatever you call it, a support group, a network, enabling some kind of neurodiversity focused space in your employment setting for parents and carers is simultaneously one of the cheapest and the most meaningful things you can do. So that's for this demographic. You can start it tomorrow. It doesn't cost anything, like I said. Now, I did promise I wouldn't darken the tone too much. It's a really fantastic and positive event here today, and it's really an honour to be a part of it. But at the same time, I don't want to misrepresent the group that I'm speaking for today and sugarcoat the reality of what being a parent carer to a disabled child is like. So, to give you a bit of background, if it's not your world, these are some of the things that it has included and still includes for me. I'll list them, but yeah, throw things at me if it gets too dark. Exhaustion, chronic sleep deprivation, impeded self-care, anxiety, stress, depression, and needing to seek therapy. And that's in particular due to the battles we have to constantly fight advocating for our children to access the education and the care they deserve but cannot get through a broken social care system. And alongside that, the constant worries we have about the future for our children after we're gone or if we're incapacitated and can no longer look after them. Alongside that, and this is where Elliot's football team metaphor becomes really relevant, there's a lot of loneliness and isolation. It can be a growing sense of separation from friends who are on different life trajectories and colleagues who just don't get what your life can be like. Alongside that, there's accompanying financial and relationship pressures, especially where compromises are needed by one or both parents with their career or their lifestyle to accommodate caring responsibilities. And lastly, there's the complexity of wondering where it all came from and realizing, as it was the case in my case, that where it comes from is actually from you, as I did when I got my own personal autism and ADHD diagnosis last year. And then you're dealing with that as well and seeing your own life through a different lens as well. Now, all of that is real and can be extremely hard. I wouldn't change my journey. Becoming an advocate for my son and for wider neurodiversity and disability inclusion, as I've become part of that community myself, has been an amazing experience. It's opened up new friendship opportunities and openings like coming here to speak to you all today. So I'm hugely thankful for that. All of us parents of disabled neurodivergent children are fiercely proud of our dependents and of their achievements. It was actually my birthday yesterday, and I was reading the message that my son wrote in the card, and that's something he couldn't do a year ago. So that meant a lot to me. I get to see videos of the guitar lessons he has at school. These are all massively proud moments. The enemy in this life is not our children. It's the systems and processes that the deficiencies in which make our lives exponentially more challenging than they need to be. And through things like the support group connections that I mentioned I made almost 7 years ago when I started on the journey, I found my own voice. And in my industry, the legal services industry, I've co-founded a movement called the Legal Neurodiversity Network that publishes good practice guidelines, holds events, builds a community, much like the Folkestone Fellows, which we heard about, and tries to raise awareness as well, including for parent carers, part of that population. So much like Elliot's brilliant bullet point list, I thought I'd try and give you some pointers on the kind of things we advocate for in our sector, because I think they're pretty relevant across all employers that organisations can do to support working parents who have caring responsibilities as we balance our career and our family responsibilities. The first thing I'd advocate for is to raise awareness and promote understanding about the same kind of realities I've been talking about. If you've got senior role models who are willing to do that for you, that's even better. Lived experience is always really powerful. And as Elliot said, cannot emphasize it enough, training line managers can have the best policies, the best commitments on your website, but it all breaks down if the person you're reporting to on a daily basis isn't supportive. Alongside that, and I'm just replaying the same records as Elliot, safeguard flexible working. I know I'm shouting into the wind that's blowing in the wrong direction here, all the banging drums about coming back to the office 5 days a week, but flexible working is a lifeline to parents and carers like me. And more widely with your HR frameworks, if you can make them as inclusive as possible and they don't penalise people who show up at work, who parent out loud in a different way, then that's really important as well. Not everyone can go to after work drinks, for example, so that shouldn't be a prerequisite for being in the conversation for promotion. Where you're lucky enough to have things like coaching and mentoring, an employee assistance program, mental health support, that should be informed by suitable neurodiversity expertise. It's scarily common how often neurodivergence is related to underperformance or unhappiness at work. And then we get into the really aspirational area. I know we're all campaigning for equal parental leave. I'm a massive proponent of that. But once you've won that battle, why not have another one? Why not start advocating for paid carers leave as well? The statutory minimum with 5 days unpaid, it's really not that hard. I think most organisations to make a profit, paid carers leave is really something we should be pushing for as well. Specialist vacation and emergency backup care can be transformative for families in my situation as well. So where you offer support for care over the holidays or for people who need emergency care, make sure there's a sort of neurodiversity flavour to that as well. We need specialist care in our family situations. And then really into the kind of best practice area, some employers are starting to offer expedited access to diagnosis and therapeutic services. If you've ever seen the news, the waiting lists on the NHS for an autism or ADHD diagnosis in some postcodes can be 3, 4, 5 years. I've spoken to people lucky enough to work at Freshfields, which has in the last 3 years brought in both paid carers leave and a neurodiversity diagnosis benefit, and it's changed people's lives being able to access that diagnosis for their kids, before they start school rather than 3 years into being at the wrong school, as one example. So I am getting more positive. Things are changing for the better. We're seeing good practices pop up in organisations. We're seeing them spread around, and the more events like this can spread that message, the better. So I'd like to end on that positive note, if I may, with encouragement to employers of all shapes and sizes to be open and inclusive towards this often neglected and very quiet, often demographic in your organisations. A lot of people don't talk about this a lot at work. Encourage them to do that. It needn't be difficult, as I mentioned. A lot of the things I've suggested don't come with a price tag or expensive to be supportive. And I think if you are supportive to parent carers, you'll be repaid in spades by a cohort that is naturally resilient, tenacious, and empathetic by our very nature. And it's probably a more numerous population than you realise as well. The estimate from Carers UK is that 1 in 7 UK employees is balancing caring responsibilities. So there's actually quite a lot of us out there, as I said, not necessarily being noisy. One final thought, if I may, since we are a Working Dads Summit today, my recommendations are not gender specific, and yet it often saddens me when I go to the spaces for carers that I've accessed and the ones I've tried to build through my work with the Legal Neurodiversity Network, how often they're overwhelmingly filled with women, and often it's only women. To be clear, I love the commitment of women who come to these spaces, and it's a sad and frustrating reality that the caring burden falls disproportionately on women, including my wife, who I want to acknowledge and thank for everything she sacrifices so that I can do stuff like be here today talking to you. But a basic knowledge of genetics tells me there should be as many men with neurodivergent and disabled kids as there are women out there and in the spaces that are creating, and they're just not there at the moment. So if you're out there and you're hesitating about coming to these spaces, my message is that I see you. I imagine you're going through similar things to what I've gone through, but maybe you're not talking about it yet. I encourage you to do that. Find, listen, and support each other. It's been transformative for me doing that, and I think it could be for you too. So please ping me on LinkedIn if that sounds like it could be for you too. And I'd like to finish on that next day. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James. That was a really powerful and vulnerable story. And if James' story reminds us about the vulnerability of dads and how that when the call to care is asked of them, it can really redefine their lives as they know it, then our next story will remind us that the circle of care can often extend in the other direction, related to the generation who raised us. It's a new reality we're all facing, the parallel path of juggling modern fatherhood or modern parenthood with caring for our aging parents. And our next speaker knows that story all too well. Andrew Holmes will speak to the heart of our movement. In his next speech, he will talk about how he's juggled modern fatherhood while also caring for aging parents, and the toll, but also the gifts that's brought him throughout his life. His story will remind us that parenting out loud isn't just about caring for our kids, it's also about embracing the care responsibilities of many dynamics of our family. So please give a Working Dads Summit welcome to Andrew Holmes.
Thank you very much. Can I get 2 claps? Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you, thank you. So yeah, I'm at that kind of midlife age now where I now have to care both up and down. So I'll introduce the characters in my story first of all. So obviously you've got me, I'm Andy. They're on the screen now, I see there. So if you look up on the screen now, you can see me wearing I don't know why I'm wearing that hat, but yeah, and then you can see my little girl, Lexi. She's actually 7 now. She's fantastic, lots of energy, super competitive. And then with her, there's my dad there, leaning over, also wearing that hat. He sadly passed away in August this year. So my caring story will be partly about him. Sadly, he had metastatic prostate cancer, and like I said, he passed away. Then on the right there is my mother, who was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So that, again, comes with a lot of challenges as well. So they're the kind of 3. I would be remiss if I don't mention my wife, who is a massive support. She's not in the picture, but I know she's watching because she's studying CIPD. So I've scored some points for that one, I think. So I'm going to tell a story about basically when it suddenly went from caring for a 7-year-old to caring for 7+ to 70+-year-olds. So this started in May this year. So I was lucky in that I've got a very supportive culture in my company. So again, to Elliot's point, my calendar, you will see things like, in particular in this case, it was a hospital appointment. So I would take my dad to a hospital appointment to go and see his oncologist. This was in May this year. Now, normally this would be a 2-hour turnaround. It was quite close to where we lived. So I would put it in my calendar, and I was very lucky. My boss actually works in the US, so I could do this in the morning before he woke up. I was being honest, it was in my calendar, but I was okay to do that and be honest and keep it in there. And on this particular morning, I went round to pick my dad up. I knew he hadn't been feeling too well. We'd exchanged odd WhatsApp message. But again, he's very much from that generation of, I don't want to ask for help. I'm a tough guy. I would rather, you know, anything than ask for help. But when I got round there this particular morning, I could see he was in a particularly bad way. And unfortunately, the cancer had metastasized into his legs, and he was really struggling to get down the stairs. So suddenly I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is not what I thought of. You know, he seemed okay at the weekend. Things had progressed quite a bit over those few days. And I realized, okay, this is a bit of a concern. But then I also realized my mum. Now, I knew she had Alzheimer's, basically because I'd Googled it and seen symptoms, but she hadn't at this point been diagnosed. But because he was in a particularly bad way, I suddenly realized, oh, she was very confused, very disoriented. And suddenly I'm going for 2 hours to take my dad to an appointment where he's going to get, you know, potentially his next round of therapy, I've got suddenly 2 big problems here, kind of thing. So I had to bring my mum. My mum was actually planning to come, but I had to bring her with me because just logistically, you have to park on like the 6th floor of a hospital, and there's no way I could carry my dad down 6 floors of to get there. So I had to say to my mum, look, can you come with me? And then I'm going to drop you at the door, and I just need you to help dad into the hospital, kind of thing. So she does that. You know, that was quite challenging in itself, but she does that. And as the appointment progresses and things, it's kind of then becomes clear, okay, my dad now is going into palliative care. We're just going on to pain relief. So they are, again, mum is very confused, disoriented. Dad is in a bad way. And I've got a meeting in a couple of hours because my boss is due to come online, and I've got meetings, and I'm suddenly like, again, I'm comfortable telling people in advance, hey, I can't make that meeting. I'm doing a school run. I can't make that meeting. I'm taking my dad to hospital. What's a little bit more uncomfortable is, okay, I almost don't know how to describe what's happening here, but I can't work. They need me. So I had to explain that to my boss. I'm very lucky. I remember it very, very well because I called him while I was in the queue for the pharmacy to collect Dad's morphine. And it was just when it just happened, this was when he'd woken up and he called me. I sent him a message on Teams. And I called him, I explained the situation to him. I said, Brent, you know, my dad's much worse than I thought. You know, mum's really disoriented. I don't think I'm in the right headspace to work today. Not only that, but they need me here to kind of look after them. And his words were really good. He said, Andy, family first, we'll cover it. You do what you got to do. That's what he would always say. We got through the day, and then in the end, unfortunately, my dad ended up having to go to hospital. Okay, and we had a lot of challenges with mum as well, and I kept having to say to my boss, "Oh, I've got to take these little bits of time out here and there," but he was again so supportive. But I remember one. Now this story is kind of amusing, but kind of not, in that I'm at work. So I work in finance. I'm sitting there. I'm doing my Excel spreadsheet or my PowerPoint. I get a phone call. It's my dad from the hospital. He's had quite a lot of morphine, and he's, son, they're moving me. I'm going to escape. Sounds like something David Walliams would write as a children's book. So again, I'm like, okay, what on earth do I do in this situation? There's no training for this. I can't phone my mum, obviously. Do I have to go to the hospital? So in the end, again, I have to phone my poor boss and I say this, like, right, my dad is trying to escape hospital. I can't attend the meeting. You have that feeling of professional, you know, you're a professional, you want to be good, you want to, you know, you have a sense of pride in your work. And I kept thinking, God, what must he think of me? Like, I'm phoning him up every couple of weeks, it seems like, with this story. In the end, I went to the hospital. Dad could not escape. I calmed him down. Everything kind of, you know, went from there, and it was all okay. Fast forward later on, and my dad unfortunately goes into what's the end of life phase, and I get a call from his nursing home saying, Andy, your mum is in a bad way, and your dad as well is going into end of life phase. Again, sorry, Brent, like this is the situation. Andy, for the 100th time, family first. We'll cover it. I'm lucky. I have a team of 10 people. Oh, I got messages from them saying, Andy, do not worry. We will cover your work. Okay. They were absolutely incredible. And it's that culture, I think, that is really, really important because, like I said, I feel comfortable telling someone, no, I'm not going to be able to attend that meeting. I'm doing school drop-off. Yes. Do I feel comfortable suddenly dropping my colleagues in it when I know I've got unfinished work and then they've got to cover for my work? No, I had a sense of, oh, I'm embarrassed. They know I've not finished it. You know, they might find stuff. You know, your kind of head's all over the place. Not to mention, you've got the emotional side of it as well. Like, you know, this your parent, your dad is dying, and this, you know, you've got all this going on, kind of thing. But again, they were super supportive. They did not make me feel bad at any point throughout the process. People were there to help. And I kind of then flip it back now and think how important that culture is. Because now, if any of my colleagues are in the same situation as me, I know I'll be the first to put my hand up and go, hey, I'm going to help you. You helped me, I will help you. I will be there. I will make sure that you don't have to think about work, because right now that you need that burden that's to be removed from your life. So I think that, yeah, that is one of the most important things, is that culture. And it's within my office. Yesterday I was in the office. My boss's boss, who's based in the same office as me, left early to do the school run. I sometimes leave early to do the school, and my wife might text me and say, I've got a late meeting, and it's totally okay. I tell people I'm transparent. Like the stories I tell, you know, I tell good ones as well. I don't just tell bad ones. Like I'll tell, like, you know, recently I hurt myself trampolining because I realized I forgot that I was 42, I should say. And my body doesn't move the same way it did as my 7-year-old does. So I'll kind of overshare and tell those stories to people, so they know the characters. So then when something happens to my 7-year-old or my mum, everyone in my office knows my mum has Alzheimer's. Everyone knew about my dad. It didn't come as a surprise because I was open and transparent. And that culture is there within my office as well. And I think that's it. And I think it needs to come from the top, because I've worked in environments where I wouldn't have had that confidence to share everything that was going on. Whereas now it's kind of accepted. They have a phrase, is bring your whole self to work. And that's what I like to do. I like to tell my story. Yeah, so I can see you've stood up for about 2 minutes, so I think I'm done. So thank you very much for letting me share my story today. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, let me turn this back on now. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your story. I've now also told the Parenting Out Loud team to remove the trampolines from the back. So don't worry, we're not going to have any trampolines now for the rest of the event. You're all safe. We have heard some incredible stories in this first half. Would you agree? Yes, we have. Has that motivated anyone in this room to maybe share their story? Does anyone here feel inspired to maybe share their story? Oh, we got some shy ones in the room. That's okay. That's okay. Oh, no, we have someone here. Great. Well, don't worry. You don't have to do it here on this stage. We have an opportunity in the break. So maybe this will intrigue a few more people because it doesn't necessarily involve public speaking. But we have an opportunity here in the break where you can go into this room over here and meet with the Parenting Out Loud team and have an opportunity to share your story with us and also on LinkedIn. So for the shy ones, because I saw some people were like, oh, there is that opportunity there. And don't worry, you don't have to be on the stage today. But this first half has been amazing, as you've all already said, and we're going to keep building this momentum because it's not just a single moment. This is a movement. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we have an opportunity for you all today. We've got a giveaway. Can I get an ooh for the giveaway? Amazing. We have 10 tickets to the Baby Show. The Baby Show is the UK's leading event for all things baby, bump, and beyond. So when you sign up for the newsletter, you'll be entered in with a chance to win tickets to the Baby Show, and you will get the opportunity to receive our newsletter, which will tell you all about the companies leading the way when it comes to paternity leave. We'll offer you a guide to start your own staff dads network, and you'll receive updates on all the events we have coming up over here at Parenting Out Loud. So this is your chance to get your hands busy. So get your phones out, scan this QR code, and for those watching online, you can click the link in the chat and sign up for the newsletter. Great. Well, we are now going to have a break. You have all earned some refreshments. That's going to happen in the foyer where you walked in earlier today. And I have a little task for you. So for those who want to share your story, as I've said, in this room over here, you can do so, meet our team and share your story with us. And I would like everyone else who's getting a drink to find someone who's wearing the same color as you. So those in red, I see you, I see you. And share one takeaway that you have got from this first half of the session. It can be big or small, but we want you to connect with people in the room. We will see you back here at around 3:10. So see you then. Thank you, everyone. Try this again. So if you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Great. Welcome back to the world's first Working Dad Summit. Amazing. Our previous panel earlier in the day was for the employers. They spoke about the policies and the strategies that they are implementing to allow equal paternity leave and other benefits for working dads. But this is not just about policy and culture. We really need to see the effect of what these policies have on working dads. And that's exactly what you're going to see later now with our next panel. Because we all know that parenting out loud is complex, it's diverse, and it's deeply personal. The next 4 dads are going to show you what it's like navigating fatherhood in a changing culture and doing that while parenting out loud. They are going to show you all what is possible. Are you ready for them? Yeah. Amazing. Well, we're going to give a huge Working Dad Summit applause for our panel chair, Nicola Ray, and then our panelists, Scott Elder, Dan Alputi, James Lees, and Richard Odoffer saying, welcome them to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Hi. It is so awesome to be here. My name is Nicola Ray. You can do the name check. Yes, I am Elliot's sister. It's nepotism working. Welcome, welcome. So the work that I do, I'm a wellbeing work and performance specialist. I do it through the modality of coaching, and I really care about ambition and care and work. I really believe that we can combine our ambition so it's something that meets all of our needs, including our families. And so it's lovely to be here with this panel of dads who are going to be sharing their stories. I'm fascinated on the intersection of all of our experiences, the universal themes that we kind of all share, and then also the differences as well. So we're going to hear about adoption, we're going to hear about co-parenting, we're going to hear about adding additions to our families. So I'm going to pass it over to the panelists to introduce themselves. It's also quite funny, Elliot and I, we love a microphone. We love to talk, but our parents are like proper introverts and they would never be on this stage, and that always makes me laugh. So first of all, we will introduce the panelists, and love you to tell us like who you are, what your families look like, and also a song that describes your parenting and fatherhood journey. Are we ready? So we have a panelist up here of Scott, James, Dylan, and Richard. So let's start off with you, James.
We don't have to go first. So James Lee, so I'm a dad of two daughters. I'm a 50-50 co-parent with my girls' mum, and my girls are 15 and 12. I'm also co-chair of Microsoft's Families Employee Resource Group in the UK. So we've got about 1,100 members. And then in my spare time, I also lead Microsoft's insurance business for the UK. Hopefully nobody's watching this. So the song one threw me. Actually, I only read it this morning and had a panic and looked online as to what I should say as a dad, and none of them worked for me at all. So the honest answer is it is Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve, and actually ultimately Richard Ashcroft. I'm a massive live music fan, and something that I've wanted to bring my daughters into. And on two separate occasions, I've had more than one ticket, and my friends have not been able to attend. So my girls separately have been to Richard Ashcroft concerts with me, and they absolutely love it. So our songs and albums of choice now in the car are my songs, and it's Richard Ashcroft. So I'm very happy with that.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dylan. I work for large tech businesses called Worldwide Technology. Within that, I manage our suppliers across the UAE, UK, and Europe, and support our Great Place to Work for All programs, and that is diversity, ERGs, and so on. And Liam, you got my name right? So yeah, it is property. Well done. I am a Black French gay man, and people think that the French part is the worst part. So that's that. And the song will be probably, what's the two songs? One Love from Bob Marley, you know, Give 'Em the Love. And the next one will be What Work from Rihanna and Dre, because it's chaotic. So yeah, that will be me.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard. I am a dad to Ella, who is going to be 4 on Friday. And we've got another one due in 2.5 weeks. So if I do run away, very, very obvious reason. Yeah, in my spare time, I love that. I am a EDI lead at Balfour Beatty. So doing the work on kind of both sides, both to make things better for other people, but also selfishly, so I have more time for the nursery run. Yeah, what would my song be? My song was Lean On Me. I am a little bit of a softie. Bath time, bedtime, they're my times with Ella. So yeah, anytime he needs just that calming presence before bed, that's me.
Hi, I'm Scott Alder. Briefly introduced myself earlier, so I won't repeat myself. I'm married and my wife and I have one daughter who is 7. Now, being the one from the music company, this question, I felt there was a lot of weight on my shoulders. I think really it's kind of, there can be a range. Having a daughter kind of at one end, you've got, isn't she so lovely? The other end, probably Daniel Bedingfield, got to get through this. But there is, I think actually overall, there's a song for any musical theatre fans in Hamilton called Dear Theodosia, where, love it, there's at least one. But that's where Hamilton and Aaron Burr sing to their newborns that they would bleed and fight for their children and they want to make the world a better place for them. And I think ultimately that's what every parent really wants.
Oh, that's amazing. I feel all emotion at that, some of those song choices. And I've taken the liberty to add mine, even though I wasn't explicitly asked. And it would be Mama Said Knock You Out, old school LL Cool J, if anyone messes with me and my girls. I am a solo parent, so that factors in there. And then Dreams by Gabrielle, because now I want to break into song, but I won't. Let's get on with some questions then. So first of all, to Scott and Richard, what support have you had to parent out loud from leadership? And how do you set boundaries around your work and family life? So let's start off with you, Richard.
So I think one of the main stories that came to my mind when I saw this question was when I first went off on parental leave, I was terrified of the impact that would have on my career. We were in the middle of planning a big conference. I was working with a team at Deloitte at the time. And I remember the day after I got home with the baby, I joined a call. And my partner was like, why are you here? Literally, I was like, well, no, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, everything's going well. I promise this is the last call I'm going to join. And she said, okay, I'm going to need you to leave the call. And as soon as the time finished, I remember I was in the Asda car park picking up some bits for home. Lucinda calls me again and she says, Richard, I don't want to see you on any calls or any emails except to send us baby pictures until you're back. And there was something so freeing about that, because the pressure to feel like I'm letting people down if I don't still turn up, if I drop everything and expect other people to pick it up. And Lucinda, in that one call, unlocked it all. And for me, that was a really big part in how I now parent out loud at work, because it's that demonstration that there is nothing more important than family. There is nothing too big that we can't pick up, that we can't look after. Your team can manage without you. Your family can't. And it's so important for me to live that, show that, and be that example in the same way that I had Lucinda be it for me.
Thank you.
I think for myself, and kind of alluded to it slightly in our opening speech, UMG has a equal parental leave policy. We allow all parents to take up to 52 weeks off, with up to 26 of those weeks fully paid. So just having an environment and a culture that celebrates that. Also, I know Elliot mentioned a number of things that you can do, and we have a fully funded parenting and carers network. As I mentioned in my speech earlier, we have a therapist often coming in every month. We provide a free lunch, which I'm not going to lie, always goes down well. But it's also about just creating a safe space for parents and carers to come, share their stories, have a vent, because it is very much cathartic, and just being seen, kind of not just by other parents, but also then knowing that leadership is around and watching and knowing that these spaces are there. And then in regards to the second point about how do I do it, sorry for the pun, but parent out loud. You know, kind of, I'm very clear in saying, and I know others have said it on the stage already earlier, that I can't do that call, or can we do it an hour later because actually I'll be home by then from the school run. Ultimately, you know, look, we're all adults. I know there's a few babies in the room actually, but the vast majority of us here are adults. And so I think it's just about, I know it can be difficult, but standing up for yourself and other parents, because also as well, if those of us who are going through it now don't do it, it's not going to be able to be improved for others moving forward.
Thank you. And it sounds like there's a real theme in there of like us setting boundaries isn't just on the individual, but your example there of leadership stepping in and helping is so important. Yeah, thank you. So Dylan and James then, what impact has your parenting out loud had on your personal and professional life?
I was thinking about this question over the weekend, and I realized how much of a blur there is between the two for me. That's not to say that my team are like my children and my children are like my work colleagues, but I've got a team that I lead in the office, and I've got a team at home, and my team at home is the three of us, but you know, we are absolutely, you know, team leads. And I realized that, you know, my parenting style is not to be on at the girls all the time, but it's about, you know, being really clear with them as to how I want them to be and how I, you know, my kind of core foundations of being a parent, and then being my girls around, you know, respect and politeness and working hard. And then I think, you know, making sure that I show up for them, always there for them when they need me. And then the other one is the care aspect. So, you know, that I'm always there if they need to speak, whatever the topic, but showing the love, showing them that I love them. And whether that's, you know, the stereotypes of dads and mums, you know, breaking all of those stereotypes down into just loving them as to who they are. And then I realized actually in my work life, it's very similar. You know, I'm leading a team. I give clear expectations as how I want the team to turn up. I'll encourage them, I'll support them, I'll coach them. Maybe don't love them in quite the same way, but there's definitely that trust aspect to the relationship, and you know, showing care, and a lot of that care often comes through, you know, acknowledging personal circumstances are not always the traditional stereotype. And I think the other bit really for me, and I've heard a few people talk about it, is that authenticity coming into the workplace. So, you know, I know I get a lot of, you know, benefit, respect, engagement because I'm a working dad, because I'm very vocal about how I parent, you know, the challenges that come with that, and you know, whether I'm leaving early or I'm not on a call, or all of those aspects. That authenticity, I really think, drives engagement with my team, and I think that's so important as a people leader in the workplace, that people see that there's more to you than a corporate James.
Yeah, so I had my son. We had a son through adoption, so it was a lot of prep. So personally, in my own life, I think it's a lot of emotion going to. It feels like I'm coming out again. You know, it's like another step. So we knew, you know, 5 years ago, going through that process, we knew what we would expect in terms of the long process and what comes with it. So that was tough, to prep yourself to go to your workplace and say, you know, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be a long process, and I need safety. I need you to understand me, because some days I can be here, the next day I can be in Birmingham or wherever it could be, driving to meet that little person. So, and a lot of meetings in between. So I think that was the type of reflecting on, you know, this is what's going to happen. This is the use case. We prepped use cases and everything. I was like, I'm ready to go. This is the file. Like, I'm doing this. So it was a lot of that in the background. And then once that step was taken, then it's about do you really understand what's going to happen? You know, so we're planning ahead every week. It was an update. And I want to be loud because you have to. Plus, I'm gay, so I'm loud. But and I'm French, even worse. But like, I felt like I needed to share that process with a lot of people around me at work, so they knew what's going to happen and the questions that we can raise. You know, I'm happy to get a question and answer it, but I felt like, you know, I was the first one in the region to adopt, so I felt like I needed to share every step of the way, to be very loud, to argue. I don't know if my HR director is online, but you know, I do appreciate you. But it was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of back and forth to go for it. And I guess adopting is such a hard process to go through. And I was very lucky.
She started to crawl during that time, so I got to experience that. We went away for a bit as well, and just ultimately having that bonding time as a three was amazing. And again, I just come back to the fact that, you know, I'm very fortunate to do that. I think the national uptake of shared parental leave is about 3%. So it was great that it was brought in, but obviously there needs to be more done, and ultimately realistically in funding for it. I've also taken parental leave as well, which is another thing that is again offered, but again unpaid. So I took 4 weeks of parental leave when actually the 4 weeks before our daughter started school. So again, my wife and I both took that, and we had some time together before she started school, and kind of made that transition from nursery.
Yeah, I was at Deloitte when I took mine, and I was one of the beneficiaries of the amazing policies that we did have. So my paternity leave offering was 4 weeks fully paid, and then I was able to take 8 weeks shared parental leave on top of that. I married a teacher, which is fantastic. She gave me all of her half-term leave, and it was great. But the great thing was Deloitte's offering also meant that because I took it in the first, I think it was the first 6 months of my baby being born, that was also fully paid. So I got 12 weeks fully paid shared parental leave. That meant that the relationship I have with my son now is as strong as it is because we had that time. I think when we think about this, and the fact that I think it's been a repeated theme today of it not being a lottery of where you work, this is really one of the things that we need to consider. Parental leave, paternity leave's offering is too short. Shared parental leave isn't well paid enough. So for people who do want this amount of time, who do want that opportunity to be involved in those big moments, you have to suddenly be making financial decisions that can be quite difficult. And oftentimes you find yourself in a position not being able to take it because of the virtue of luck of where you work. And that's why we're so vocal about it. That's why we're so passionate about it, because we've seen the impact it can make. And it shouldn't be the case that you have to wait to find the right employer, or you have to hope that you've been there long enough, or you've met all the criteria to be able to have those opportunities and those memories that won't come back.
So co-parenting is something that is very close to my heart. And James, as a co-parenting dad, how do you bring your caring responsibilities into your leadership, and how does it shape your approach to work?
I think a lot of the time it's around just, you know, speaking from the heart, you know, being clear on, like I said earlier, you know, being clear about how I bring my girls up, how I engage with them, how I spend my time with them, how I am really clear as to, you know, what I want them to achieve, and how I want them to always, you know, work hard and be the best that they can be. I think bringing that into my leadership is, from a work perspective, is, you know, it really is a kind of a copy and paste between the two. You know, it's different recipients of it, but it is around, you know, setting those real clear expectations that I've given in the past with my girls, but then actually bringing it into that work environment. And as I say, then making sure that it's not just a, given a direction and walking away. It's around how do I support them? How do I care for them? How do I give them the time and the flexibility from a work perspective to balance their personal life? You know, I think it's a throughout the whole day so far, everything has been around, you know, you build that connection into your leadership or into your company when flexibility is given or acknowledgement of your personal circumstances are given as well. And I think that's really important from, you know, because the company is the overarching employer, but it's the person that you work for as well. And I think that's so important. And as I say, I think the other bit for me is just that authenticity. I think, you know, and that vulnerability of actually, I'm not a perfect corporate leader. I've got, you know, 2 children that take up time as well. I've got, you know, yesterday morning I went to a talk at my daughter's school at 10 a.m. and I had to move a call and I couldn't join another call. And I think having that vulnerability of actually this is my life as well, and I'm not only here just to service from a corporate perspective.
So Scott and James, then, you're both chairs of the Working Family Network. How important do you think it is for dads to lead this work? And how does that leadership encourage other dads to be involved?
I know I've obviously touched on this a little bit already, but I think that just having these spaces available, you know, in workplaces is incredibly important. So within UMG, we have had a parents and carers network since March 2020. Our first meeting was actually 3 days after the building shut down for COVID. But actually then it was kind of a fortuitous timing actually, because then whilst our meetings as a group went online, all of those that were in the group kind of just automatically had a network and a group of people who got them. I mean, I was probably on the fortunate end in that my daughter at the time, when we were all stuck at home, etc., was of nursery age. So her nursery shut for 10 weeks, but had stayed open for those children of critical workers. And then reopened on the 1st of June in 2020. So actually, my wife and I really only had a period of 10 weeks where we were trying to juggle things, and my mother-in-law kind of came up and stayed with us. So we had some support there. But certainly then joining those calls, you know, there were colleagues that we had who were trying to homeschool 3 kids of, you know, 14, 10 and 6 whilst trying to keep down a job. And, you know, so all of a sudden, you know, I was like, oh my God, I've got a toddler, you know, trying to juggle this. And then you know, you see other things, they're like, whoa, okay. Like, you know, other people are going through not just what you're going through, but going through worse, or, you know, have potentially going through, this is obviously not COVID related, but, you know, having those networks, you get to hear from parents who have got children who are older than your own. So, you know, my daughter's now in year 3. So, you know, I've heard from people who have got children who have made the transition to secondary school or who are going through GCSEs, and you get to see the fun and horrors that is to come. But it's really, I just find it a lovely experience, because also as well, it's a really nice break from my working day as well. Like we actually had our monthly session yesterday, so it was really lovely to, you know, just kind of come together, chat with the other parents in the group, and, you know, being now it's kind of back to school, you know, kind of again, it's like just hearing that people survived the summer holidays. But in terms of kind of leadership, certainly having dads as part of it, along with obviously, of course, mothers, but, you know, kind of parents who are willing to stand up and show that this is important. We're working parents, you know, is critical. And I think that if, you know, anyone here or online are advocates for that, and your company doesn't have a parenting network, start one. You know, go to management, go to finance, go to your CEO, and set that up, because ultimately, if there's not one already, someone has to take that leap. And the chances are that everyone in this room and everyone watching online are in this bracket of people who want to see progress and want to see change. And ultimately, everything in life always needs someone to take the first move. So if you don't already have one, I really would encourage you to do it. It's a great thing. And I've chaired it since November 22. So just coming up 3 years. And I've got so much more out of it, chairing it and through putting in I will be honest, it's not a huge amount of time, but just from that, I've got so much out of it that is worth 10 times more than what I put in.
Thank you. What would you add, James?
Yeah, so the family's ERG in Microsoft UK, it's about 1,100 members in the UK. We're part of a wider ERG community globally, and there's multiple within the UK. But our group is made up of individual communities. So there's a dads group. My chair of the dads group sat over there. But actually we've got communities around fertility, maternity and maternity, carers, single and lone parents, 11 to 18-year-old parents. And I think, my view on, how important it is to have a man in this, leading co-leading the ERG is for the vast majority of those communities, all of these things impact the men as well as the women. Yes, in very different ways in some scenarios, but it's really important that the male has a voice in the ERG, in the community. But also, and I took a lot from Elliot's football team exercise. All of the stereotypes, or most of the stereotypes about guys are pretty true, right? Not great at talking to each other. I find with my friends, I either watch or play sport or go to the pub, and that's the only time we do things. And actually, they aren't always the best places for a guy to go out and drink every time that you want to see your friends. And I think having this safe space in an ERG that we create through having the male leaders in the ERG is really, really important. And you see it, you see people come into the ERG, first 10, 15 minutes, or even the first time that they join a call, they don't talk, they're off camera. Actually, within the next one, they're starting to come and talk, and they'll open up, and that creation of that safe space within the community is so important. You see people in the office, and you might nod to them, and you know some pretty personal information, but it's a safe space that nobody else is talking about. And I think people, certainly in my experience, people respond to it, and they want it, and that just gives them the confidence to be a lot more vocal about what's going on in their life.
And Dylan and Richard, as people who have been part of these actual networks, how important has it been for you?
Very important. I think leading by storytelling and live experiences and sharing is so important to move forward and to make a change, right? We want to make a change by coming together and sharing stories and knowledge. And to me, that helped a lot. And I'll try to help others, as we share and move along to that journey together to create space. Because I wanted to be the main carer for my child. I was very eager to go for it and be there for every step of the way. And that wasn't possible. So we had to share our leaves and end up getting unpaid for 5 months, which was not ideal. But I had to do it. And this is it. My success was my child. So you have to redefine what success is at work. You have to redefine what life is going to be, which it changed, and I was happy with what we decided to do. But yeah, I think those networks are so important for us to share knowledge and go through that journey with somebody else that did it already. People that are already parents with a 12, 13, 18-year-old. You can see what's coming for you. It's like, oh, is that coming for me? But yeah, so yeah, very important.
Yeah, for me, I think, does anyone remember the movie Pass It Forward? Pay it forward. Pay it forward. This is it. See, that's what you're here for. For me, that's been the biggest takeaway from being part of the networks. It's not just learning and seeing what's in front. It's then realizing how much I gained from knowing what was coming and realizing that I could do the same thing for others coming after, not just in work, but outside. I remember in Elliot's 11, he had church on the right back space. And that is, no, goalkeeper. And that's the same thing for me. In the last year or so, I think we've had about 4 or 5 first-time dads in our church space. And being able to share some of those lessons that I went through personally, some of my learnings about shared parental leave, the options that were available, the reality of what it's like being a dad for the first time, have been so powerful. Like realizing that for 9 months, you're really just an observer. You can do the nice things, you can do the foot rubs, you can do some of the cooking, you can do the chores, but that connection with the baby really clicks when they come and not that much before. And for me, I struggled with that personally because I hated the idea that I couldn't do anything. But realizing that what I could do is make my wife's life easier. What I could do is prepare for the fact that there is going to be an entire shift. There's going to need to be a change in my relationship with my friends, change in my relationship with activities, hobbies. I used to play football every week. I had to pause that when the baby came because time, money meant that it wasn't quite as easy. And then I realized also I was allowed to get fat because I was a dad now. But that passing on, that sharing of the realities of it and helping other people know that actually it's okay to struggle at times. It's okay to have challenges. These are the things that are going to come up. The weird things that you don't hear about in the NCT classes, like febrile seizures. Like when that happened with our son, we panicked. We were we were all over the place. But because we now had it, we passed it on. We let people know that it's normal. Their brains aren't fully developed. They're not able to regulate their temperatures. So the seizures are their body's way of keeping it calm. And it's that, right? It's those little things that you get, that it's not necessarily policy. It's not necessarily the official parts, but the realities, the day-to-day, that I think benefit being in those groups.
Yeah, sure.
Just on the support network that obviously you've seen from Elliot, for the adoption, you have to do your own support network as part of the process. And somebody in the audience said, oh, I wonder if I am in my friends, I don't remember who said that, if I was my friend, support network. The first thing we did with my partner, we sat down and we did the draft, who's there, and we called them one by one, because we thought if we put in the name for to be part of our journey and help us creating something and helping a little human to grow, they need to know. So I think call your friends, I'm not sure what that was, but call your friend and tell them that, you know, they are in your support network, that you need them, because that will open doors to different discussions.
Brilliant, Five. Thanks, Brazilian. So as this amazing panel draws to a close, I'm just going to go to each person, ask for some final words. What would you say to other dads who want to parent out loud? And we need to keep it quite quick because, yeah. We'll start with it.
Without having a copy too much of the other one said, just do it. Also, if anyone seems to, you know, say, oh, you're leaving for the school run again, whatever, just remind them that your children are going to be the tax base for their pensions. So, frankly, everyone should be wanting to look out for parents because it's in your own vested interest for the future.
In one line, build your network. It's not something that we can do on our own. We shouldn't be trying to. We need people, we need our friends, we need our family. That's the only way we're going to have healthy children as we grow up.
Just take the leaves, take everything you can get. Just get it and do it. Like, honestly, take it, it's there. Just take it. Don't worry.
Mine would be, of course, parent out loud. Be proud about it. Be proud of the parent and the dad that you are. And then the final thing for me is, do it. Be authentic. Be yourself, and that's all you can be.
Okay, well, thank you all to this amazing panel and you all as well. So give it up for our panel. Yeah. Need help.
Thank you. No. Up to you. Thank you so much to our 4 incredible working dads. They show us the power behind parenting out loud, the courage it takes and the change it creates in their lives and also in the workplace. And we spoke a lot about the next generation, the future taxpayers, as they so beautifully said it. And this event really is all about them, of course. We want these policies to be in place now, but also to benefit that next generation. And on top of those policies, we also want a lot of other things for next generation. And I want to know from all of you, what is the one superpower or quality that we can give to the next generation of working dads to help them parent out loud? It could be confidence, vulnerability, balance, whatever that word is. Yes.
I would say being able to feel safe to feel all of our emotions.
Safety, emotional safety. Yeah, that's a beautiful one.
Safety. So we tend to have good feelings and bad feelings.
Mhm.
And I think it's about having the courage to lean into the uncomfortable emotions and not having to fix it. Sometimes we just feel it.
Definitely. Not having to fix it, just being with our emotions. I agree. Anyone else? Anyone else want to shout out a superpower for the next generation of dads? Be noisy. We love that. We love that. Anyone else? What about up top? Hello.
Thing about is something that I've learned in my journey is before you can really parent a child, you have to learn to parent yourself. And most of the parents that will know that children don't listen to what you say.
Yes. Yes.
Begin to understand how you regulate your own nervous system, how you regulate your emotions, and then they model that in their behavior. So focus on yourself, and that will have the impact on your children.
Thank you so much. For those online who didn't quite hear that, that is all about parenting yourself, parenting your inner child, and living as examples for our kids, isn't it? Anyone else? Security.
To know that there's not going to be negative consequences.
Yes, that is a great one. Security, no negative consequences. Exactly. We'll hear from one more person. Yes, sir. Hello. Yes. Courage.
As a dad, it's difficult. It's scary.
Yes. Definitely courage. Thank you all for that. That is definitely something that I know everyone in this room and the people watching online will give to the next generation of dads. And through the policies that we're pushing for, it will definitely be universal. Our next session is a special one. This is very, very exciting, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen that parenting out loud can have a ripple effect through the home, through workplaces, and importantly, with the women that they parent with. For far too long, the parenting penalty has disproportionately affected mothers. But as we've seen from our panels and everyone here today, when dads fully step in, when they parent out loud, that discrepancy can be decreased. And hopefully, the parenting penalty can be completely eliminated. Do we want it eliminated? Yes, I think we do. Exactly. Well, that's exactly what our next session is all about. We have a special podcast recording of the To Be a Boy podcast. Woo! Yes. This podcast has graced billboards across Leicester Square. It has reached number 7 in the Spotify UK podcast charts, and it's the leading podcast in the UK for all things boys, masculinity, and modern parenthood. It is co-created and co-hosted by our very own Elliot Ray, and also by the formidable founder of Pregnant Then Screwed and the new initiative Growth Spurt, Jolie Brayley. So please give a Work Endowed Summit welcome to Elliot and Jolie.
Can we recognise we have the legend Jolie Brayley here, please? People ask me, "Oh, like, why did you start the podcast?" And I say, when Jolie Brayley asks you to do something, you just say yes.
So yeah,
Like, you know, your parents say,
I wish my kids did the same.
they would, yeah. You know, your parents say to you, like, would you jump off a cliff if your friends did? And I'll be like, well, if Jolie was going to, then yeah, I'll jump off the cliff. Jolie, this is our first live podcast recording.
And I've worn trousers that are too short for me. But don't all laugh at my hairy legs. Yeah, first live podcast.
So normally we would interview a guest. We had the episode dropping today, actually.
Yeah.
With Beyond Equality.
We did, who are here.
Are they here? Ben is here! Big up, Ben! Round of applause. Incredible episode. Beyond Equality do incredible work supporting boys that go into schools, and it's amazing. So thank you, Ben, for being here. Normally we interview a guest, but today we're going to mix it up. I'm going to interview you.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit weird.
It is. Should we do our intro?
Go on,
All
you
right.
start.
Welcome back to Be a Boy podcast with me, Elliot Ray.
And me, Jolie Brayley.
And today we're mixing it up. We're going to talk a little bit about the motherhood penalty. We're coming live from the Working Dad Summit. We've spoken a lot about the dad's experience, and that's all good. But we need to really make sure we make space and touch on the motherhood penalty, what this means for working mums. And I don't think there's anyone better in the UK for us to be speaking about than you. So Jolie, first question. Where are we right now? What does the picture look like for working mums in the UK when it comes to the motherhood penalty, the barriers that exist in accessing the labour market and accessing good mental health and just being happy and healthy and having good well-being?
Okay. I mean, this is going to sound really doom and gloom, but on almost every metric, things are worse. So pregnancy and maternity discrimination has increased. It used to be 54,000 women a year got pushed out of their job for getting pregnant. That's a woman every 10 minutes. 1 in 9 pregnant women lose their job for getting pregnant. So we thought that was bad enough, and then we did the research and found that actually it's increased again. So it's now 74,000 women every year get pushed out of their job. We also know that mothers have really bad rates of mental health at the moment, probably because I would say of the stress, the financial stress, as well as the fact that we're working longer hours, the cost of living crisis. So we're poorer than we were 30 years ago. We're financially worse off. We have worse rates of mental health. Pregnancy and maternity discrimination is increasing. Meanwhile, the motherhood penalty is staying stubbornly the same as it was 10 years ago. So we did some research recently which found that the pay gap between mothers and fathers over a week of earnings is 33%. Mothers are earning 33% less than dads over a week. So I'm afraid things are a bit shit, but I'm trying to end with a hopeful message, which, you know, the hope is this room, right? It's everybody here the men who, I've met so many nice men today, who just are really flying the flag for equal parenting, who get it, who want things to change, this whole room full of people who are here to advocate for better for working parents. And Elliot, who's managed to bring this room full of people together, who are all, you know, you're not all the same. You're all different people from different backgrounds with different life experiences who all want to go out there and create change. And so, I mean, I just want to give it up for Elliot. Amazing.
You made me blush.
It's like creating a massive movement. And then
I was going to say, we can drown our sorrows at 5 p.m. There's champagne and Prosecco. For anyone's got childcare, we can drown our sorrows at 5 p.m. But I think you're right to reflect the reality. You know, there is hope, but at the same time, we can't sugarcoat things.
lots of people go through lots of stress, and working mums have it really, really tough. As you mentioned, there's so many different people in this room, and in designing this event, that was on purpose. You know, the experience of motherhood is intersectional. What would you say is the different experiences for mothers when we take into account class and race and disability and other characteristics?
I mean, there's not enough data on this, but the data that we have shows that things are worse for Black and brown women, and they're worse for disabled mothers and mothers with disabled children. There was a brilliant report done by the Fawcett Society about 2 or 3 years ago, which found that Black women face a more significant motherhood penalty than any other demographic. It didn't look at disabled women or women with disabled children because the data just didn't exist. But it found that Black women face this intersectional discrimination because of the ethnicity pay gap, as well as the motherhood penalty and the discrimination the bias that you experience in the workforce. So we know that Black Caribbean women are 11 percentage points less likely to be employed when they have children than Black fathers are. For white women, that's only 5 percentage points compared to white men. Bangladeshi women are 17% more likely to be unemployed when they have children. Black women are also the demographic that are most likely to be rejected for a flexible working request. So there definitely is intersectional experiences, and it's far worse for Black and brown mothers. The demographic, I would say, that have it the hardest are mothers of disabled children. And they are being systematically ignored by everything that we're doing. The whole system seems to be getting far worse for mothers of disabled children, but we just don't have the data to tell you what that looks like because nobody's bothered to collect it, which I think speaks for itself. But yeah, things are shit. Sorry, this is really depressing. Can you ask me a nice question? Ask me what song I would like.
What song would you play today to your children that sums up motherhood?
Oh God, I didn't want you to ask me that. I don't know about that.
It's the fun we have on the podcast. Right?
When Nicola asked what song sums up your motherhood, the first song that came into my head was Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Can we do the dance? Can we do that? Yeah. We did debate, should we come on to music and do a dance? Maybe later, we'll see. But I think that's an important point. Too often, when we're doing inclusion work, regardless of the focus, we don't go into that intersectionality. We don't focus on different groups. And what I've loved in your work through Pregnant and Screwed, and now in the work that you do, is that you've always looked at that. You've always looked at the wide range of motherhood. And I just want to really encourage everybody in the room that does this work to make sure we're going into that level of detail to make sure everyone's included in the conversations. So we've spoken today about dads parenting out loud and being equal parents at home. What impacts from your perspective does that have on the lives of mums and working?
I mean, I'm not going to say anything that's going to shock anybody in this room, but we know that if dads take time out to care for their kids, like a decent chunk of time, that it reduces the bias in workplaces. Of course it does, because if both men and women are equal risk, then there's no point in having a negative bias towards women. And that negative bias is really well researched. So we know that mothers are seen as 10% less competent than women without children. 37% of employers say they would advertise jobs for men only if the law allowed it. It's one of my favourite stats. And the Government Equalities Office found that mothers are half as likely to be promoted as any other demographic. I mean, it doesn't help when we have we have people going around saying things like the children of working mothers are more likely to mug you. Anybody know who said that? Boris Johnson. And the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States, said in an interview, I think that for the most part, mothers are better off staying at home looking after their children. I mean, we're seeing from America as well, this whole sea change in the way we talk about women in the workforce, and it's very much, you really shouldn't be working because your job is to be at home. And that's really scary. I've gone off on a bit of a tangent now, but the point being, Elliot, let me
It's
get
always
to
a
the
point.
point that if we have a system like Sweden where paternity leave is ring-fenced and properly paid, then you will see men take time out in their droves to look after their kids, because it's not that men don't want to, they're desperate to spend more time with their children, but the whole system prevents them from being able to do it. And once they take that time out, then we know that the bias towards women reduces, the gender pay gap starts to close. We found in some research we did, it would close our gender pay gap by 4% if we gave dad 6 weeks paternity leave at 90% of salary. That is massive. We, you know, kids would be happier, everybody would be happier, we'd all be happier, dads would be happier, kids would be happier. Marriages are 40% more likely to stay together if men take time out in those early days to spend time with their kids. So everybody would be better off and women's careers would flourish. So why the hell, when you don't have a system that enables that, is beyond, I'm sure, any of us in this room. Thankfully, we have people like Baroness Penn and Stella Creasy who are fighting the good fight inside Parliament to try and change.
And we're going to hear from them shortly as well. One thing that's very interesting, so that today we've been talking about dads parenting out loud, and I'm very aware that the bar is so low.
Yeah.
And if a dad does the basics, changes a nappy, you know, leaves early, then they're praised. They're like a fantastic dad, dad of the year. Like, congratulations, here's a medal. Often for women, expressing the same is penalized.
Mhm.
So how do we encourage dads to parent out loud without reinforcing that idea that dads need to be praised for it, and when women and mothers do the same thing, they are penalized?
I mean, I think dads are praised for it in the general public, but I don't think they are in the workforce. I think if dads try and use flexible working or take extended parental leave, they're often viewed with suspicion, like, why would you want to spend time with your child? This is insane to me. Surely you want to just be at work. And we know that dads are much more likely to have a flexible working request denied. And I've heard some shockers, some really awful stories about men requesting to take extended leave and the things that their employers say to them, like, oh, shall I buy you a dress while you're at it? Or a guy who told me that his boss used to email him while he was on parental leave and start the email, hello, nanny. You know, all sorts of sexist crap. And so I think in the workplace, it's very different to externally. But, you know, anybody here will know that when you see a dad out with their baby and it's like, oh, nice. That's so nice that you're doing that. And the mum's like, staggering behind and gets nothing.
It's even better if you've got a puppy. If you're out with a puppy, by the way, it's crazy. Everyone thinks you're this great human being because you've got a little puppy. Seriously. So you've spoken quite a lot about a lot of the, like, where we are and the negative impacts on us not sharing care and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What do you think would be the changes? Like, what do you think would make the most impact to working mums' experience?
6 weeks paternity leave at 90% of salary. Like, if there was one thing that would radically change everything, that would be it. And I mean that companies are doing that and they're seeing changes in their workforce as a result. We've got the data. We know that that is going to make the biggest difference. In addition to that, because we talked a lot about paternity leave, the other policy that I know changes things radically is paid carers leave. So companies that have up to 10 days paid carers leave not only see that it's good for the bottom line. That Centrica did some research on this. They implemented 10 days paid carers leave and they found that it contributed 3.2 million to their bottom line in terms of increased retention, improved recruitment, increased productivity. So you know, it's good for businesses to do this. But we all know, like, if you when you put your kids in nursery, they're gonna get sick because they all go to nursery and they start licking each other. And then like they come back with like all these insane diseases that we thought had died out in the Victorian era, like hand, foot, and mouth, and slack cheek, and what's the other one?
There's
Like,
loads.
yeah, like scurvy and stuff. And that we just get the call constantly. And so to know that your company has a policy where not only are they saying that's okay, we expect this, and that's fine, you take that time off, but also you're not going to lose out financially because you've just come off parental leave, so you have no money, radically changes things as well.
So many people, I'm sure everyone in this room knows you from your incredible work at Pregnant and Screwed. I never forget that image in Trafalgar Square, giving it to the government with around tens of thousands of working mums and dads surrounding you. Incredible work. Now you are leading Growsperm, a new company. So my main question is the name. Where did the name come from?
I love an innuendo. A growth spurt, like you talk about kids having a growth spurt. So I thought, well, also the whole point of this is for parents to grow. Like this is a growing period for humans when you have a kid. So yeah, it came from there.
Cool. And talk to us about the transition. So I understand the initiative, the business is all about supporting parents back into the workplace.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you think that transition into the workplace looks like, and why do so many mothers at that point just not enter the workforce or find it really difficult and ended up leaving?
Yeah, this is a big question. I'll try and not waffle on too much. We talked about this a bit before when you had the employer panel, and there were loads of companies doing these really great policies, but actually when you go back to work, you feel a bit like you've lost your mind. And I had a really supportive employer, a man who didn't have kids. He was dead nice though when I came back and really told me it's fine. We expect it to take a while for you to get your head back into work. I just thought when people talk to me, it was like, you know, on Snoopy when he's down the phone, it was like, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know what anybody was talking about. And I cried in the toilets every day for 3 months. And, you know, I was desperate to get back to work actually after maternity leave. So the fact that I felt like that means that the vast majority of people are really struggling when they go back to work, and the data shows that they are. We did a research project with 5,500 parents who've returned to work in the last 3 years. 89% of them said returning to work is really hard, and the vast majority, more than 3/4, said they didn't get the support that they need. Only 30% said that they felt their employer understood what it's like to be a parent. Only 30%. And 1 in 4 left their job as a result. So this is it's an economic problem as well as a problem for parents. So I just think this is really solvable. Like, I don't understand why we haven't solved this. And so that's what Growsperm is trying to do. And I think it's not about, you know, you can have great policies, but this is about support. It's about giving parents that support that they need when they return. So it's career coaching, which you talked about being like it really changes things, and it's also peer-to-peer support. So companies do try and do peer-to-peer support programs internally, and they do work a bit, but the vast majority of employees that I've spoken to say there are power dynamics that interrupt that ability to feel like safe to support each other. So it's peer-to-peer support, and then there's a course that goes through pregnancy right the way through to when you return. So we're testing it at the moment, and it rolls out next month. And I really want it to be used by people who really need support, and for it to change the way they feel about returning to work.
I know it will. I know it will. I've got a final question. Hope. Let's talk about hope. You're a hopeful person. I'm a hopeful person. That's why we do our work. Where do you think we will be in 5 years' time? If you had to have an ideal scenario in 5 years.
Can we not go 5?
Okay, 2 years. Let's say 2 years.
Yeah.
We've done the work. We've implemented 6 weeks at 90% paternity leave. We're doing more career coaching. How would you want to see the world? What would be your vision for the world when it comes to equality for mothers, particularly?
how I would want to see the world and where I think the world would be might be slightly different, I'll be honest, but the Employment Rights Bill will change a lot of things for the better. So within the Employment Rights Bill, you have miscarriage leave, you have changes to flexible working laws that I think will genuinely make a difference. We will enhance protections for women when they're pregnant from redundancy and while they're on parental leave, and parents when they return from work. So that will be a real game changer as well. We will have the parental leave review, which we're going to come on and talk about in a minute, which should say what we're all saying repeatedly over and over again. I don't know why we need a bloody report and more investigations, because we all know what needs to be done. But hopefully that will conclude that we need 6 weeks paternity leave at 90% of salary, and then we'll have that and the world will be wonderful. That's the ideal. I also think what gives me hope is the fact that we're not standing for it anymore. We've now got men, you know, it used to just be women shouting about this stuff, and now we're seeing more and more men join with us to fight for changes, and that will make a big difference, because I hate to say it, men, but you are more listened to than we are. So you need to keep shouting, please, and supporting these changes. I'd love to hear from people here, actually, what gives them hope about the future, because I think we don't talk about that enough, particularly at the moment when things outside of here can feel really depressing.
And we've got time for a question. The first time on To Be Able, it's our first live recording, and we're gonna hand it over to you. Do we have a question for Jolie or for me or for both about what we've spoken about today, the motherhood penalty experiences? Kelly's hand went straight up in the background there. She is not shy.
I did a quick Google. It says that 60% of the workforce work in businesses under 250. And in my experience, this stuff is, well, it's not easy, but it's easier in larger businesses. Having experienced that in smaller businesses, when they can't afford it, they do need the backfill, whereas a lot of large ones don't. How do you think you reach that 60% beyond this lovely little bubble?
There are companies with less than 250 staff that are doing some amazing, amazing things. And companies that have, like, they don't have a gender pay gap, they implement really great policies. I think it's really about priorities. And then there are massive companies that are awful. I cannot mention any names of companies because I'm legally bound not to, but companies that win awards for being gender equal, but behind closed doors you get pregnant and you're out on your ear and you're signing a non-disclosure agreement. They'll be banned next year, non-disclosure agreements, so we'll be able to expose the bastards. But I think it's not just about policies, it's about care, and it's about having a leader who gets it, and that does filter down and makes a big difference.
One last question, Agnes.
Jolie, from the work that you do, you spoke a lot about intersectionality, and you also spoke about the laws that are coming in. But how does that still protect Black and brown women? Because oftentimes what happens is new laws and new policies come in place, but actually they end up widening the inequities for people that are already disproportionately more likely to experience them in the workplace. So what can we do around that?
I'd love to hear from you what you think, because I feel like you've got something you're not saying there. There's like something that you have thought through that you're like.
I wouldn't say that I've gone through the exact answer. That's a lovely MP. And advocate for us, but I think it's just really important that we make that aware, because oftentimes a lot of policies come in and they sound really, really great, fancy slogans and so forth, but actually a lot of working class women, a lot of Black and brown women don't get to benefit from those policies, and it just become kind of like a washboard on the outside, like, yeah, we've done this thing now, let's move on. And people are still feeling the brunt. So I think it's just, I wouldn't really say there's an answer, but I think it's just really important for people in this room who are working in this space, just like what you said earlier, to really understand that there are unintended consequences. Sometimes we think a problem that we think is the problem, but the people, especially the women who are facing the brunt of these issues, just are not taking this support.
I mean, we saw that with shared parental leave, didn't we? When shared parental leave came in, and we've looked at the data now, dads who are low income households are much less likely to use shared parental leave. It just benefits people, wealthier families. The childcare system benefits wealthier families. It doesn't benefit lower income families. I think the way that you should design policy and the way that you test policy is about firstly data and analysing the data as you go, and then changing policy if it's not working, but also having people round the table when you're designing policy to input on it. So like what you're campaigning for with children with special educational needs, having a group that the government listen to of parents who are experiencing this stuff day in, day out, to input on how that policy is designed means that you won't end up in a situation where it's just not benefiting the right people.
Thank you, Agnes. Agnes is incredible. Does incredible work. So make sure you talk to her afterwards as well. We've been to Be a Boy. Yeah. Please listen to the podcast. This is coming out next week, so make sure you're listening. Spotify, Apple, the podcast has done so well. And we want to say a massive thank you to everyone that listens in, tunes in, encourages, shares the episodes. We've been overwhelmed by the feedback. It's been really, really incredible.
And I love doing it.
It is. We just have a laugh,
Yeah.
basically. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll hand you back to Leanne for our final session. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Elliot and to Jolie. They spoke to the systemic issues that we are facing, but also to the systemic issues that we are changing, right? Because we're changing them. Exactly. And that is exactly what our final session will speak to today. You will understand where we are in the process of improving paternity leave for dads across the country. The two women doing it here today will give a great talk and update you on where we're at and also how you can get involved. But these women can't do it alone. So if you truly believe that it's time for the UK to improve its paternity leave, I would please ask you to stand up. Great. Now stay standing and look around the room. Look at the individuals in this space. And if you're at home, stare at your cat or your dog, whoever's there with you, look at them. Because understand that these people that you're looking at now are part of a movement. And they are driving that movement to become a mandate. And we are going to use that mandate to give these two women, Stella Creasy, MP, and Baroness Penn, a standing ovation to turn our collective voice into legislation. Let's welcome them to the stage.
We were debating whether to stand up or sit down, but we thought you'd worry we were going to start singing. Unless we do a key change like a boy band.
You don't want to hear me sing. That's all I'm going to say.
So I am Stella Creasy. I am the Labour and Cooperative MP for Walthamstow, otherwise known as God's own country. If you haven't been there yet, you want to come.
And I'm Jojo Penn. I'm a member of the House of Lords. I don't have a patch as such, so I can just represent everyone, or no one as I'm not elected.
Well, you can't complain to Jojo about your bins. You want to be very clear about that.
But one of the good things about being in my position is actually I get to choose the issues I care about and want to work on. And this is one that I'm really, really passionate about. And it's brought us together. We didn't know each other before, but we both recently tried to amend the Employment Rights Bill to get us to that position where we had 6 weeks at 90%. So we'll talk a bit about that. But also about what next. That's not the end of the story. So maybe, Stella, why don't you start by telling us kind of what made you start campaigning to improve paid paternity leave?
So I first started getting involved partly because of my work wife, who is Jolie Brearley, and I'm hoping to have date night with her later. But also because we are really unusual in parliamentary terms, because unlike you guys, there aren't very many people who are elected or even unelected representatives dealing with these challenges firsthand. Actually, the number of mums in particular in politics is pitifully low. That doesn't just matter in terms of democracy, it matters in terms of the voices in the room when it comes to these kind of policies, let alone for the dads who are then being silent about the impact on them of the crazy way in which we make legislation in this country. If I tell you that we apparently have family-friendly hours that mean I need to be in Westminster at 7 o'clock at night, I don't know anybody whose bedtime works for that kind of coordination. Changing the way in which we work means changing the laws that protect it. And one of the frustrations for me is that right now, this is not a conversation that is really happening in Parliament in the way in which it needs to do. So we've just had a major piece of legislation about your basic employment rights. It's about to be finished. It's playing what's called ping pong in parliamentary terms. It's going back between my house and Jojo's house. But paternity leave is not part of that conversation. And I want to come, so Jolie talks about being worried. I live by Gloria Stenem's maxim, which is the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off a bit. And the honest truth is the Employment Rights Bill could actually see an increase in maternity discrimination in this country, because what it does is it gives women stronger maternity rights. Great, you might think. But one of the things that drove me into this is the very obvious point that if actually you are the one literally left holding the baby, then of course, whether you have kids or not, people are going to think that you probably don't want to be in the room. And I've had so many people say that to me. So many people blame my kids for why I would be absent from something rather than because really this meeting could have been an email. Changing the law on parental rights so that every parent can be present is about every parent being equally discriminated against. So when I got my hands on the Employment Rights Bill, I put in a requirement to look at the motherhood penalty and craft parental leave laws that included being paid for your paternity leave to make sure that we were tackling both the motherhood penalty and, frankly, the fatherhood premium. Unfortunately, in my house, we didn't get the support for that, but then it went over to Jojo.
And one of the advantages of my house is actually whichever government is in place of the day, normally they don't have a majority in the House of Lords, and it is an opportunity to win a vote. I had an amendment down to make paternity leave paid at 90% of salary for 6 weeks. Sadly, it lost by 7, which is really, if it was even closer, I'd have been kind of going around finding those 6 people that I needed to have changed their minds. But I think it was a really interesting debate actually for me at our end. We had people from all sorts of different backgrounds supporting the policy. And I think, we heard about what gives you a reason for hope earlier. And actually the number of people that were in favour and from kind of, unexpected quarters, I thought that was a really positive thing. But the reason I wanted to put the amendment down, as Stella said, we've got this big bit of legislation and that's such a gaping hole. And I think we've heard it today, paternity leave is such a bad policy. And I worked on the Conservative Party manifesto in 2010, which had shared parental leave in. And then I worked in government for Theresa May, who was also Women and Equalities Minister, and I worked in the coalition to implement shared parental leave. That was a really bad policy too. And, it's been great for those who can take it. And we heard it before, and we heard from Jolie. The problem is that around 3 or 4% of people take it. I was surprised by those figures because I live in London in the southeast and I'm surrounded by friends who work in white collar jobs. And I'm like, I know loads of dads who are taking this time off. And the reality is that it's still a complete privilege and it doesn't work. So these are 2 really bad policies. And then the other thing that you don't get very much in politics are problems that are solvable. So you might have lots of problems out there that you want to solve, but there's not really a clear path towards doing it. So I don't know, an example is the increased absence of children from school post-COVID. One of my colleagues was working on it in DFE, and there was lots of time and effort going into it. But she stood back and said, but do we know what actually works? Do we know that all of these interventions are going to make a difference? And on paternity leave, we know what works. You need a period allocated to dads or second parents solely. So in shared parental leave, you transfer it from mums to dads and it's totally optional. You need it to be properly paid, not £180 a week, but 90% of your salary. Mine had a cap in at around average earnings. You don't want to put that cap too low. You want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. And then the last thing is it needs to be simple and easy to use for parents and for employers. And we touched on smaller businesses just previously. And I spent a lot of time engaging with smaller businesses. That was one of the concerns I had played back to me when I was putting forward my amendment. And for some of them, they'd say, do you know what, it would be really hard. But if you made the system simple enough, if we got support as we do for the current rebate for the system, we could make it work because it's good for business, but also because it's the right thing to do. And so that was also a very heartening set of conversations that I had in the run-up to the amendment.
So what we're basically saying to you is that we have failed entirely. And that's why we're here today. Because what we did get out of pushing this through the Employment Rights Bill is the government is now reviewing paternity leave rights in this country. Now, the cynics amongst you might look at the timescale for that review and think, oh, it looks to me like it's probably about making policy for the next general election. I don't know about you, but I've got a little bit of a bigger fight about the next general election. I might need to take quite a few paracetamol for it to be able to deal with it. What we want to do is hasten the pace of change, because Jojo's right. The honest truth is we have the evidence. We know it works. The Select Committee for the Women Inequalities Committee has just put out a piece of research showing that it works. But this conversation, the things that you hear me and Jojo talking about, is not happening enough in Parliament, and it won't happen through parliamentarians. It'll happen because of people like you. You have such a strong voice in this process. So we are here today to beg you to use your voices, not just in that review process and demanding that it actually reports and makes legislation, because it will require legislation to get the rights that people need, but also, you know, sort your own bins out. Use your time with your parliamentarians to tell them that you want them to prioritise this. Because if we look at our economy right now, one of the biggest things we could do to help get the economy moving is to make it easier for people to be able to balance family life with working life. We are not here as politicians who go around leaving notes on people's desks saying, I'm sorry, I missed you. But we are here saying that your voices need to be heard in this process, because it would help us with convincing our colleagues that this is a popular and practical thing to do that will help the economy. Jojo and I have some ideas about pieces of legislation coming up that we can amend. But actually, what this experience, I think, has taught both of us is that this becomes one of those issues that people will get around to and they probably need to hear more about until it's right in front of them. We want to hear your ideas about how you can get in front of our colleagues to help us make sure that we don't have to wait 2 or 3 years to get this policy into place, that we can just get on and do it, because there are going to be other legislative opportunities, but we will face the same barrier where it basically feels like we're talking Klingon to our colleagues if they aren't hearing this outside themselves.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. I've experienced reviews that have done great work and led to big change. I've also experienced reviews that have gone nowhere and no one even remembers they happened. So I gave you the example the other day. I used to work for Theresa May when she was Prime Minister, and one of the things we did just before she left office was launch a consultation on the next steps for parental leave, because we knew that what we had worked on in 2010 had not delivered. Yeah. I was speaking to someone the other day who was like, oh yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that. Whatever happened to that? And that was the same issues that we're talking about today, just another 6 years on without any progress. And the reality is that if the political pressure is there, and that just means that people in Parliament knowing that it matters to people out there, and also people in Parliament and the Treasury knowing it matters to businesses out there, that it makes business sense, that they're not worried about increasing paternity leave at the same time as national insurance going up or other things, that business voice is out there saying to Rachel Reeves, actually, do you know what? We do this in our business and it's good for our business, but actually it would be better if everyone did it. Because to your point, Stella, the number one mission of this government is about growth. And the reason it is because from that, you get better living standards, you ease a lot of the pressure on families, you have money for taxes that will improve our public services. So that is a great mission to have. And this is a policy that will be absolutely fantastic for growth. And so those voices need to be heard by MPs, by the civil servants working in government. Jolie made the really good point about how this review takes place. So it's an 18-month review. We've just had, I think, a 6 to 8 week call for evidence that closed quite recently. I don't know what's happening for the other 16 months of this review, but my real hope is that it will be run in quite an open and collaborative way, because otherwise you won't get the answers by the end of it. You'll get a whole set of other processes to get to those answers, or you'll get bad policy like we've got so far. So in some ways, we were really keen actually to hear from you guys and take any questions you have or hear your perspectives, because we've kind of tried doing it in our bit of the world. And that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. But the thing that I don't think I really felt that I had was kind of big momentum or pressure. It didn't feel like a difficult thing for the government to go through the lobbies and vote against my amendment. And I need to work out with the people in this room, and we need to work out how we can switch that dynamic so that does feel like a difficult thing, that feels like actually it's the wrong thing to do, and we don't want to have that on our record.
So here is a very first question for you. You all got up, you stood up. Stand up if you've ever gone to speak to your MP about something. That'll do. Stay standing up if you spoke to them about parental leave. You get the dog, but you don't count. and getting MPs drunk in central London doesn't count either. So that's a first point of action. The honest truth is I get more emails about badgers than I do about babies. And that isn't a sign about Walthamstow. Really. The first thing you could do is just tell your MP that you think this is important. You want to know why it's not in the Employment Rights Bill and what they're going to do about it. You want to know what's happening with the parental leave review. These are not difficult questions, but sometimes in politics, the obvious is the thing that gets ignored the most. And if they're not hearing it from you, they are hearing it from the badgers. You've got a question, sir.
The question is, like, we all stood up, whether we're willing to do it, like, but we could shortcut that by someone writing the letter and then sending it around to us to then send to our MPs.
You could, yeah, and people do that. It's worse. I get thousands of emails every day. It's the personal that sticks out to me. It's the story that you tell. If I tell you that I'm one of the worst MPs on this, because I'm the reason why you can't take babies into the parliamentary chamber, I'm the reason why Parliament will actually fine you if you have a keep in touch day if you're pregnant as an MP. I have singly failed to win over my colleagues to any positive moves on parental and maternity leave. My story's terrible. I bet your story's great, sir. And if your MP heard it, they'd probably join me and Jojo.
I'm worried that David Lammy's not going to read my letter.
David Lammy, when he was a shadow parliamentarian, was very heavily involved in a campaign around dads. I know this is something that is close to his heart. He's recently become the Justice Secretary. Do you know what an impact it would have on our Justice Department if actually we were supporting our young people? There's a story that you can tell, but if you're not telling him, he's still hearing from the badgers, I promise you. They've got little tiny, tiny claws, but they're really good at typing, and they tell a great story about why they don't want to be culled.
I'm also in a WhatsApp chat on Dadship, and
every time there's a campaign with a dashing, because they're trying to contact those MPs, the letters that people get back from MPs that are just not interested, it's just a complete shutdown on the conversation. So I'm curious, like, what's your advice for people that live in constituencies where MPs are not supportive of this, to actually open up a conversation that is more of a two-way dialogue and not just get the shutdown factor to say, no, there is legislation like this.
I've got an answer on this, what you said.
Yeah, well, I mean, your answers will be better because you're an MP,
The badges.
and so you have to do that. I did used to work for MPs in previous roles as well, and I think there are a couple of things, right? So you asked earlier about a template letter or not, and in MPs' offices they kind of quickly identify when you get a template letter, and then you get a template reply, and it might feel quite unproductive, but you still notice in an office if you're getting a higher volume of correspondence over certain issues, and sometimes it doesn't make you more engaged. But if it's an issue that hasn't been there necessarily before and is newly coming up, and if they're personalized letters, not kind of a stock, you know, I can hit a button and I've done my kind of duty, then you do pay more attention, I found. You've talked about engaging not just through letter writing, but MPs hold constituency surgeries. They're out and about in their constituencies all the time, and often a conversation. You'll find people much more open. MPs have to toe the party line. If the line is, not all of them, but some of the there are a lot of new Labour MPs who are young and ambitious, and they want to make a difference. And the way they want to make a difference is by being made a minister. And doing that means that you toe the party line in your official correspondence. But it doesn't mean that when you have conversations with your constituents in your local area, that you're not listening, that you're not taking that on board, that you're not then going back to Parliament and speaking to your other colleagues with it. And then the last thing I'd say is there's lots of different ways that this can be influenced. And so another one is more employers being out there doing this. So it might be that you don't have a very receptive MP, but you do either have a great employer that you want to encourage to be more loud and proud about their policies, or you might have an employer that doesn't have great policies, and you might be able to work with colleagues to maybe improve them. I think one of the things that I didn't push to a vote on the Employment Rights Bill, but the government could do tomorrow is have better transparency about paternity. So before we get better statutory leave, those companies that have better policies, you often don't know until you join a company and you find the page on the staff intranet what that policy is. If those policies were available to people and were more transparent, I think that is something that, while we're waiting for the review, while we're waiting for the bigger change, could make a big difference.
Yeah. I think you also highlight something really important. Look, there are lots of good conversations that can be had about parental leave and its value. But one of the things about politics, the reason why the badges are writing to me is because the cull is happening now. Legislation is the thing that changes this because it gives everybody a protected right. The Employment Rights Bill was brought in last year. We had that opportunity, and every MP, including those recently elected, had the opportunity. They chose not to support, and campaign organisations chose not for various reasons because they felt they needed more time to make the conversation happen. Legislative opportunities don't come on long as often as you want them to do so. And I think there is a piece of learning now for every organisation that says it's committed to improving parental leave, is that having got the Employment Rights Bill pretty much done, what next? You know, I'm not somebody who believes in recrimination and regret in politics, but I do believe in remembering that when you've got those opportunities like the Employment Rights Bill, it is a source of frustration to me that many organisations and people who said they were committed to parental leave and dads didn't then actually come with myself and Jojo through those lobbies. And that's the test. The badgers want me to vote against the cull because it's happening now. Don't let anybody tell you that there aren't progress to be made from amendments. And so the question for all those organisations, all those MPs is what is the next amendment? And every MP can table them. I'm not unique in that skill, but ultimately you have to win over a majority. So every MP, whether they are a government minister, whether they are a backbencher, whether they're part of a campaign or not, can vote for things. The thing you need to know and be on top of, and that's where people like Elliot are great, because Elliot was absolutely out there talking about Jojo's amendment, talking about what I was doing and helping people understand that those opportunities were coming along. Jojo and I will fight like Billary to find those opportunities again, but we need every MP not just to walk the walk and talk the talk, but to actually go through the lobbies and vote for things and tell their whips and tell the government that they're going to do so, because otherwise, coffee mornings are great, change is better. Anybody else? Sir.
In terms of the approach, so I work for E.ON, big organisation, and we've got quite a good policy in terms of parental leave and youth therapy. Lots of large organisations are doing that, but lots of smaller ones aren't and sometimes can't. We pay into an apprenticeship levy, so pay into the levy and we can draw from the levy, and it supports small organisations. Is there not an approach where we could do the same thing, pay into a levy, take what we need from it, but also it then supports the smaller organisations? You know, Pia probably won't help me. Thank you for this, but actually it supports smaller organisations because we all maintain it.
So there are some models elsewhere in the world or use insurance models or other things where the employers pay in and then they draw down when they need to, and then you might adjust it for how big your business is, and you might get more back if you're a smaller business. Our system currently works a bit like that. So if you're a big employer, you can reclaim 90% of your statutory costs back. So you bear 10% of the costs. And if you're in a smaller employer, you get 108.5% of your costs back. So you get a small subsidy for that. That's obviously only for the statutory leave. And so one of the reasons why I think actually improving statutory paid paternity leave is that you open up that rebate to smaller employers. So good big employers are taking on all the cost of that extra policy at the moment. And so when people kind of raise the concern about smaller businesses and how would they navigate this, actually by changing the statutory picture, you actually open it up to give them more support. And you could look at moving to a whole different model. So that's something this review could consider. I would be kind of skeptical or worried about how quickly you would deliver change in that world. But one of the things the government's talked about is a roadmap. So maybe that's something you want to do longer term. Or you could look at flexing those rebate rates so that you get slightly less for an even bigger organization and you make the premium slightly more, or you change the threshold so you open it up to more organizations. And that is the kind of detail that I hope this review is considering, because actually we could have in July voted to make statutory leave 90% of pay at 6 weeks. But those kinds of questions, or taking where we are on shared parental leave at the moment and saying, what do we do about this? How do we make that a better policy? Are all great things for this review to consider and engage with people while the review is happening, not say, and then we'd like to talk to you about this after the 18 months is up. There is more complexity beneath the surface that does need considering. And I hope there's a collaborative process that uses this review to get to the bottom of it.
I'm extremely conscious that we are sitting between you and Prosecco, and probably also, I want to leave you with one final story about why your voices matter. So my little boy, I've got a 4 and a 5-year-old, which is why I've got a terrible cold right now, started school recently, and he's been struggling with starting school. He's, as he says to me, I do not love school. Fair play. And I told one of my colleagues in Parliament that, and he turned around and he said, well, I think you should be grateful because most kids of politicians don't even know their parents to miss them at the school gate. And that was like a sucker punch. I don't think that's a fair reflection of what my colleagues feel about their kids. But if the place that is making the laws about how you and your families can live well together is 20, 30 years out of date, it needs you to bring it into the 21st century. We know that that is not the workplace of the future. We know it's not good for the economy, it's not good for society, but we are going to keep appealing to you to help us change our colleagues' mind and show them what that future looks like, and show them that there are votes at the ballot box and voices that want to speak up for it. So please, please, please be louder than the badgers. Put babies into my inbox and let's get the proper paid parental leave that every parent deserves.
Wow, that was extremely powerful. Let me see if my My mic is on. Can you guys hear me? Clap if you can hear me. Amazing. That was extremely powerful. Be louder than the badgers. I think we can all do that, right? I don't think that's a big ask, but I really appreciate the honesty of Baroness Penn and Stella Creasley. They really outlined what hasn't worked, what is working, and what we need to do to push forward our mandate. So thank you so much to you both. This brings us to the end of the world's first Working Dad Summit. Wow. What an incredible day it's been. You've learned so much, got so much insights, resources, tools, and also heard some beautiful, powerful stories from various working dads. But that's not all, because one, as you've already heard, we have Prosecco. For those at home, we haven't been able to do a home delivery, but I'm sure you have something warm or cold in the fridge to celebrate you being part of this momentous occasion. And we're going to keep the momentum going. So the way that we can do that, the way that we can continue this movement is staying connected. So here you can scan the QR code to join the Parenting Out Loud newsletter, and at home or online, you can click the link in the chat to sign up. Not only will you enter in for a chance to win a pair of tickets to the baby show, you will also be updated on the companies who are championing equal parenting leave. You will also receive a guide on how to create your own staff dads network, and you'll be updated on our most recent and forthcoming community events. Now you have all the tools, and it's now time to continue the conversation. So I want to invite you all here today and everyone watching at home in the next day, week, month, whatever it may be, to find a working dad and to ask them, how can I support you? What would it take for you to parent out loud? Because as it's already been said today, it is on us all individually to take these steps to push this movement forward. It's been a privilege for me to be your host today. I have been Leanne Joseph. Thank you all so much for being an incredible crowd. And I'm now excited to hand it over to Elliot Ray. Thank you.
Can I have a round of applause for Leanne, please? Leanne has flown all the way from Amsterdam to be our incredible host, and you've done a great job. So thank you so much. This wouldn't have happened years ago. We wouldn't have had a Working Dad Summit 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's clear that we are making progress from the stories we've heard today, from the work that's going on with parental leave review, the work that's going on in businesses. But I think we've also heard how much work there is still left to do. And that is sobering. It means that our voices need to be louder. It means that we need to collaborate, support each other, and all sing from the same hymn sheet when it comes to supporting dads to parent out loud at work and be equal parents at home. There are so many amazing people in this room. I want you to connect with each other. You don't have to run off. Please connect with each other. There are people here that are doing coaching for new parents. There are people who are leading working families networks. There are people who are doing incredible campaigning. We have important people in the room. Make sure you don't leave without at least one new friend, okay? At least one new friend. There are some incredible people in the room. So I want to end with some thank yous. I want to say a massive thank you first and foremost to our sponsors. Can we have a round of applause for Universal Group UK, please? Thank you, Pippa and Scott. You've been incredible. I want to say thank you to all of our partners. Round of applause for our partners. You've been great. I want to give a massive round of applause to all the speakers, everyone that's touched the microphone today, on stage or in the audience. Round of applause for our speakers, please. And last but not least, I don't do this by myself. Today has been a group effort. I'm going to embarrass some people now. But I would like Stavrula and Lauren and Dudley and Daniel and Steve to come to the stage, please. Come up, come up, come up, come up. Come on, Stavrula, Lauren, you got to come up. You got to come up. Come down, come down, come down. Get around there, guys. Don't fall down the stairs, please. We're not insured for that. Be careful.
As you know, if you've done events, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? And of course, I'm not alone in this. Incredible team here who are all wearing the Parenting Out Loud t-shirts. We got these in, yeah, round of applause for those. We got these in yellow as well, but my wife said it looks like you work at B&Q or Screwfix. So wear the white ones. So hopefully it's a little bit better than the bright yellow. Thank you so much for everyone who's been part of the team today, helped put it together. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. We've made something special happen. Thank you so much. This means a lot. On a personal level, this means loads. At the beginning, I mentioned that it felt like it was a birthday party and people came to blow out my candles. Thanks for blowing out the candles together. There is work to do. There is work to do. But I believe the people in this room, the people watching online, we can make an impact. I am hopeful. I think for our children, for our grandparents, for our grandchildren, they're going to have a different experience because of the work that we are doing. So don't give up what you're doing. Don't stop your work. You matter. You are doing incredible things. We're going to be back next year, and there's going to be more good stories to tell. So for the people who have childcare, we've got champagne. Thanks, grandparents. I love you. Thank you so much. Mother-in-law, actually. The kids are with my wife's mum. Thank you, mother-in-law. Thank you. I love you. For everyone else, please have a safe journey home. It's been an incredible day. I can't thank you enough for attending, for your attention, for your energy. You've been a wonderful audience. I know online the comments have been streaming in. You've been having conversations amongst yourselves. This is how we create change. Okay, this is what we need to do more of. Connect, share stories, share advice, and share support. There's also a request, any dads in the room? We have The Stand, who are our PR company working today with us, who are going to be in there recording videos of dads we're going to put up on our Parenting Out Loud platform. So please, before you go in there, talk about your experience. And the most important thing you need to do is take a picture with a selfie frame down there. We spent a lot of money on those, okay? $12.99 each. So you need to take advantage of that. We've got 2 down here and 1 upstairs on the way out today. So take some pictures, share your takeaways on social media, tag us, use the hashtags Parenting Out Loud and Working Dad Summit. We'll be back next year. Massive thank you so much. See you soon. Thank you.